We are live. It is Wednesday night, part one of a doubleheader, the same doubleheader tonight. Stoppage time leading off, appropriate. Part two of the doubleheader will be the dish at 10 p.m. Eastern, the full boat Major League Baseball preview. But let's start with the beautiful game. I got Clutch Connor, I got Hat Trick Holland, and it's Thierry Henry. Exciting times for all of our clubs. We'll get to that, but fellas, let's start with the Champions League. Both of you. I mean, I guess for City, maybe not quite as important, but let's start with Zach. A big win for Chelsea today as we're taping this.
Yeah, it was a huge win. I know that Milan was missing quite a few people due to injuries and things like that, but that's the way the game goes, and that's, you have to, as we always say, you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And AC Milan typically is not the team that you're supposed to beat, but when they're depleted, you are supposed to beat them because you are, essentially fully fit. So a big 3-0 win at home, going into playing them again, not even a week from now. I know Chelsea plays Milan 2 times in 11 days, I think. So, we'll be traveling to Italy to hopefully solidify this group and let's just, knock it out of the park and get another 3-0 win. But there was nothing about today's match that I was disappointed in, other than the fact that Fofana went down and he was leaving the stadium today in crutches. So, that's never a great sign for him after just scoring his first Chelsea goal and only his second career senior league goal. He had one with Leicester and now one with Chelsea.
I found it interesting that you guys switched back to a 3-4-3 from the weekend. You guys had pretty much a straight back four. So I think that's going to be a consistent thing with Potter, with very flexible formations and not kind of sticking with just one thing and kind of playing to the match and being flexible with your lineup and formation. So the guys are going to have to be prepared, and it's a good thing that you guys have played that before. So it seems like the players that were out there today kind of knew what to expect, because from what I was watching that and the City game at the same time, I had both games go running, and it looked to me from without audio, obviously, because I had my game's audio going, that you guys were clearly the better team on the field that day today. So
it really wasn't close. And the one thing that I say, Tuchel was a master tactician, but he was very stuck in his ways, and we've seen this with a lot of German, coaches and people who come from the Bundesliga. They are very set in their ways, and they tend not to be very flexible. Whereas Potter in the first 3 games that he's been here has shown 3 or 4 different formations. At the, in the weekend at Palace, they changed formations in the middle of the match. They went from a 4-2-2 to a 4-3-3. Very similar, formations to begin with, but it changed, and then he went 3 at the back this week because of Milan's attacking options. It forced us to get wide. You needed the extra coverage in the center backs, and it definitely, Leao was, other than one little run there after half, he really didn't show much of anything. He was pretty well contained by Fofana before the injury, Reece James, and then Trevor Chalobah came in and bossed it as well. So
good day at the office for you guys. Much needed too for the fan base and
absolutely
the whole staff, getting some positive vibes going after very trying times.
And speaking of another day at the office, death, taxes, and 2 goals for Erling Haaland.
At this point, it's a matter of when. in the game does it happen and how early?
So Joe,
Very first
talk
touch.
to us. A 5-0 win, pretty comfortable versus Copenhagen, I believe. It's
Yes, sir.
Copenhagen
Yep.
versus Copenhagen. And the Erling Haaland train just continues to roll along with getting contributions from everyone else.
Yeah, he put the first two in, came off at half, 45 minutes of office and touched the ball a few times and put them back in the net. He just finds this correct spaces. He knows where to position himself. He knows his timing on runs into the box is phenomenal. But a lot of his goals that he's gotten have just been from being in the penalty area and finding the loose ball and just putting it in the back of the net. And it seems like City is starting to figure out how to play with him the best way, because the build-up play is still the same. The only difference is they actually have a target to aim for every time they're putting balls in the box. Because even last year, with a false nine being played, they still played the same way. They put a lot of low balls into the box, and worked the ball into wide areas. And now that you're seeing the difference with having somebody who's extremely well adept at finishing, knock those off. So I never thought that it was going to be at this level where he was going to be scoring this many goals, but I knew that based on his skill set, things that he does well, he was going to be getting a lot of opportunities from the way that City have played previously. Because people think it's just they just want to pass the ball in the back of the net all the time, and it's a lot of little short passes, which is true, but they put a lot of balls into the boxes from into the box from out wide. So it's just been very fun to watch, and getting Alvarez another goal, and he got to start today up top with Haaland, and the midfield was pretty much just Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, and then Grealish and Mahrez were running up and down the flanks. It was very entertaining. It's weird being a City fan and watching a game at this point, because it's almost so comfortable at times. There isn't as much like fervor, I guess, while I'm watching the game, and like tense, because especially today, because I knew that they were going to win. So even when they score, it's like I want to celebrate, but there's not the same level of like passion, I guess, when they score, because it's like it's almost expected at this point. So it's a weird time, because it's very exciting, but at the same time it's like, well, that's what they're supposed to do.
The thing that has impressed me so much with Haaland is one, his timing is impeccable. His timing for not only finishing shots, but making runs and making smart runs. He doesn't waste a lot of energy making pointless runs, and that alone is impressive. And then the man is a ridiculously good poacher, and we haven't seen a poacher like that in quite a long time. It's kind of a lost art, even with the most prolific of number nines. They don't have that kind of poaching mentality. Erling Haaland definitely has the poacher mentality, that killer instinct. And when you're clinical with it, I got nothing. The worst thing that's going to happen to him is he's going to lay stagnant during the World Cup, and and that's the worst thing.
Right.
I mean,
people who remember what strikers were like late 90s, early 2000s, he's a much more athletic version of what those were. Like people who remember Ruud van Nistelrooy, Alan Shearer, but this guy, he's way more athletic. I think you talk about he makes the right runs, he's where he's supposed to be. Like even the goal against one of the goals I said against Manchester United, which first of all, shout out Kevin De Bruyne with maybe the most unbelievable cross I've seen this entire season. But Haaland has to be where that ball's is gonna drop at, and he anticipates that the pass, and he gets there. So he's so dynamic, and he's reached that stage where if it's in the box and he gets a foot on it, like he's gonna score. So it's frightening to watch. I think we play City after leaving 2 weeks. Leaving 2 weeks.
Coming up soon. I think y'all we have I think you're right. I think it's 2 weeks. So I think we have Liverpool coming up here soon too.
Yeah, I'm thankful we don't play you guys till the middle of November.
Yeah, because we play Liverpool. We play Liverpool Sunday, and I think we play City the following Sunday. So certainly we're gonna, he's a handful for everybody right now.
And the
It's
quality
funny
of
you mentioned that.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Joe.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was just saying, it's funny you mentioned Ruud Van Nistelrooy, because that's literally the person that I think he is most like. Ruud was just always there and making good runs, and he was such a physically imposing striker. He's, and like you said, he's a much, much, much more athletic version of him, which is obscene to say because Ruud was no slouch. He was dominant.
Yeah, you talk about his athleticism and his dominance in that regard, but I didn't realize how cerebral he was and how much he understood the position he's playing. Because there's guys that play striker and kind of know where to be and can do a lot of things with the ball, but he just understands positioning, like you said, the timing on the runs, like everything you'd like to see from a target striker like that, targets forward. He gets it, and he understands how much, like you said, energy to exert. There are times when we've had, Gabby Jesus up top, and Alvarez does this a lot, where he just runs and to press, and sometimes Holland doesn't do that, but you can tell he knows when he needs to put it in gear a little bit more on a press, and when he doesn't necessarily have to do that, so he has more of that energy to go forward, because there were times when Gabby would run himself ragged and maybe wouldn't have as much to get going forward. So it's just been a pleasure. I'm very excited. It's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
So we are entering like the crazy part of the season right now. Everyone on this screen has played their first game in October, and there are 8 more matches to go in this month in all competitions. Chelsea currently sitting in 5th at 13 points. Joe's Man City sitting in 2nd with 20. Arsenal, just little Arsenal. We just kind of mind our business here in first. But I guess I go to Zach. With Potter as a new manager and starting at this really crazy period of the schedule, is it better or worse, do you think, for Chelsea to play this many games with a new manager? Is it we'll get more games to get used to this, or is it we don't get as much training time to get used to this? How do you see it?
Okay, so I'm one of the people that no matter what you do in training, it never replicates the game kind of guys. Mm-hmm. So for me, honestly, it's better. I hate it because there's just so many variables that can go wrong with 8 games, on top of the one that we already played to go in this month alone. That's where I'm thankful that we're not, Liverpool and we have a obscene amount of depth at every position, because it's just, there's just so many things that can go wrong. But, to your credit, there's having this many games is going to benefit everybody at Chelsea, because Potter's going to be able to tell them, week in and week out, multiple times a week in real game experience, hey, this is what I need. This is what you do. The one thing that I've noticed about Potter in the 3 matches that he's been here is that he's not a yeller. You will not see him scream up and down the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
You won't see him yell at players if they do something incorrectly. He is the most un-Chelsea manager I've ever seen in my fandom. I don't think we've ever hired anyone like him. I'm trying to think back of all the coaches that we've had. They've all been that eccentric kind of, manager. Mourinho, Conte, even Sarri, Tuchel, even Lampard. Lampard was a yeller, but Potter is this calm, cool, collected tactician. So I'm not looking forward to 8 games in the remainder of the month, but I'm happy because it's going to allow everybody, top to bottom, real valuable game experience, because with this many games, you're going to have to rest people. You're going to have to play, your French players here and there.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to see that. Do you have the standings up? Do we still have a
I
game
do.
in hand yet?
Yes, you do. You guys are on 7 matches. Me, Ronnie's Arsenal, Tottenham are all on 8. Newcastle, Fulham on 8. So everybody around you guys, Chelsea, United, and Brighton are all on 7 still in the top 8. Liverpool's on 7 and 9th. So you guys do have a game in hand still.
Yeah. So officially, Chelsea has 7 matches remaining this month. Which is still a ton. It's basically a match every 3 days for the next 3 weeks. So it's a tough. Now you talk about the schedule and resting people. I guess, Joe, let me go to you. We've talked about Erling Haaland, 14 goals, 8 matches. But if you're Pep, despite how hot he is right now, do you have to say, you might end up with like 19 goals in 10 games, but I have to sit you. I have to sit you a couple times.
I think what is going to end up happening is that he's going to run him out and start him, and then if they get 2-3 goal lead in the first half like they did today, just sit him and give him 45, and that's it. Because as soon as the first half whistle blew today, he was taking his shirt off, and it was like, okay, he knew he was already done. They had pretty much prearranged that he was going to sit and let Alvarez lead the line. So I think as long as he's in form, you're going to run him as almost every game. But it's nice to have someone with the quality of Alvarez that is different, that does things a little bit different, scores goals a little differently, but is equally adept at being that target guy for us. So I think Alvarez is going to get more run. In years past, Pep really didn't sub very often. There would be times where he didn't use his subs at all. And this year, he's been he's been a lot better at managing in-game situations and giving guys a break and getting more rotation going. So he's used 5 subs almost every game that I've watched. So guys are getting that opportunity to rest a little bit and see some minutes. And the young guys, all the young guys have been playing too that are don't get to play as often in the big games. So I think the rotation is definitely going to be huge, and the fact that we have a lot of depth across the board when healthy. We're a little shorthanded in the fullback department because Kyle has been injured a little bit, and Stones picked up a knock over the international break. So he's going to be out for another like 10 days or so. But that's why you go out and sign Manuel Akanji for 20 mil on deadline day. So you have coverage because he can play in a variety of roles. So,
yeah, I am cautiously optimistic as an Arsenal fan because these next 2 matches are 2 teams who have routinely, for the last 5 years, absolutely destroyed us. The last 6 matches at Liverpool, we haven't even scored. City has beaten us, has routinely put up crooked letters on us. So, as excited as I am about to start, and I am truly excited, there's still a prove it to me factor for this team. And
I will give you some positive news though. You are not playing us in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because that was the match that got postponed so you guys could have your FA Cup match, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
So
well, that's good.
So it's just Liverpool this weekend, and then after that it is Leeds.
Leeds,
they're feisty.
But they're feisty.
It's not City.
When you talk about 7-8 matches in a month, rotation is going to have to happen. This is where Arsenal, we're going to find out. Because Granit Xhaka has now become like really, really important. If we have to sit him down, I know Zach is wild. Well, I know. He's going to have to be rotated. Thomas Partey has an injury record. He's going to have to be rotated.
How long is Emil Smith-Rowe out?
Emil Smith-Rowe's out to December.
He's out until December. Okay.
Gabriel Jesus is going to have to be rotated at some point. And
yeah, but you got Eddie. Eddie's more than capable of leading that line for the off match. Obviously he's not Gabby, but I've been impressed with Eddie. I know you're not sold on him.
Listen,
but
I'd rather have Eddie Murphy. But he's gonna have to play at some point in this month. He's gonna have to probably start a couple of games. So even though
you guys have a really strong best 11, it's kind of like Liverpool really for the last couple of years, where the front 11 is great, but after that, it kind of
the first 11. That's been the story. That was the story I believe this last year too. The first 11 is good. First 11 it's not City, Liverpool last year, Chelsea last year, but the first 11 was good enough to make the top 4 last year. But unfortunately, this is not FIFA 23 where you can turn the injuries and the fatigue off. Everybody has to play. So we're gonna find out. But so I am cautiously optimistic. I will tell you this: if we beat even with Liverpool's bad form, if we beat Liverpool on Sunday, the gas levels go up a little bit more if we beat Liverpool on Sunday.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. I really hope you guys win, because Liverpool has us the weekend after. And if they lose both of those games, they're going to be like damn near 20 points off you guys and 19 off of us. Their title contention might be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Liverpool lose to us and City, it's over.
They're cooked, because they're at 10 right now. They're already 11 points off of you guys and 10 behind us. So if they lose to both of us in the next 2 weekends,
but they have a match at hand, so you gotta take that into consideration. So let's assume
18 and 17 points behind them if they win their game in hand.
I hear you. I'm just saying, like, let's not.
And I think if they get that far, see, like last year, Liverpool was 14 points down the City in December. Here's the difference, though, and this is the biggest difference. Man City last year, when you played the system they played last year with the false 9, they can have stretches where they struggle to score. Like, they'll create chances, they'll have the ball, but they won't score. With the Terminator up front, they're not going to struggle to score. Even if he's on whatever you would determine is a dry patch, they will score goals. I don't know what the Premier League record is for goals scored in the season by one team. I bet City breaks it.
Yeah.
Was a guy you shared, Rory?
Rory, yeah.
He said 15 would be a good total for Haaland for the whole season. And he's
It's
on
at 14
right
now.
now. Oh,
And I'm gonna tell you the other team, and I know they're going through the transition with ownership and management. Chelsea, if this gets together, is probably the third best team in the league. If they get everything in order right now, I think they're the third.
I'm not ready for that.
They are.
As of right now.
I look at Liverpool. I look at Liverpool struggling. Manchester United is better, but we saw what that looked like against City. Like, no. And then you throw in, so that's Arsenal, City, and then who else?
Tottenham.
Tottenham plays the other. Tottenham is Atletico Madrid with different colors. Another
I'm
team.
Really intrigued. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Juve if they fire Algeri. I know Conte's
I think Conte's going to rock it. I think Conte leaves. And this is not even me be trolling as an Arsenal fan. I really believe if you tell me what job would you prefer?
How do you you don't turn away Juve?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Not mid-season like that. If it was an off-season, maybe, but I think he'd be tempted. I think you at least listen and think about it for a little while.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Look,
I don't think he would leave.
I put like this. I'm with Zach on this. If we get to the World Cup and Juventus is still what they are, and Tottenham is not any further along, absolutely by the World Cup. Absolutely. He leaves.
I legitimately I think by the winter transfer window,
yeah.
if Juve fire Algeri, then Conte has gone.
Let's say Conte does. Who's sitting there still available?
You know where it's going. You know where it's going.
Bring him back home.
That is 100% going to be the call.
Listen,
because that's what Tottenham does.
Poch, the love story, it's Disney Plus. Poch is home. It's kumbaya. We all sing and dance and be happy. I'm with Zach on this, actually. I'm with you, Zach, on this. I think if something doesn't happen by the World Cup, Conte to Juventus and bring home old Uncle Poch.
Yep, it's. What'd you say earlier? Mark it down. What you were talking earlier, Joe? You said mark it down.
Yes.
Let's just. This is a show of statements.
Yep.
Receipts can be had.
Yeah, I mean, clip it up if you want to. I'm telling you.
And watch ESPN and all them junks start running with it. This is
not
proof right here.
It's not
that we were there first.
There's certain job who Vince's is with all the financial backing it's in the Premier League and its money. You're not turning down Juventus to stay at Tottenham.
No.
And this is not even me being an Arsenal fan, North London trolling. That's the reality of life.
There are only I'll say 5 clubs in the world that have that status.
Yeah.
2 of them are in Spain. 1 of them's in Germany. And 2 to 3 are in Italy. Obviously City, but that doesn't count. Like the Milans and Juve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
history.
As great as Tottenham could be winning the league, and I could still see Conte being like, you know what, we had a good run, deuces.
Right.
We had it.
It's been real. It's been fun. Hasn't been real fun.
Taking my talents back.
He
Yeah,
played for them too back at like that's yeah. So that's something I think, especially as we go through this stretch of October, November leading to the World Cup. Some managerial season get a little warm because the World Cup is a time if you're gonna change something,
that's the time to do it.
Just got a month.
It's basically you have 5 weeks off. If you're ever going to change it,
that's the move.
That's the time. That is the time to make the move.
And I think like the World Cup break is going to be great. It's good for like the upper echelon teams, you know, like the Cities and the Liverpools and the Arsenals. I actually think the World Cup break is really bad for those mid to lower level teams in the Premier League, any league for that matter. But you go from, you know, whereas all these top flight teams have, I mean, Chelsea had 21 of their 24 first team members on international duty these past 2 weeks. Everyone at that level is gone at the World Cup, or, you know, whereas these lower level teams, these guys are not, you know, a lot of them, they'll have fringe players, you know, but a lot of them won't have real hard game experience for 2 months or whatever.
And you talk about that, Zach, too, is for guys who are not going away to the World Cup. We know how managers have been looking for time off because the packed schedule. Where can I find time off? Here's the time where guys like, yo, we need that week. We need the week off. And so I again, me and Zach on wavelength tonight, I think that is going to be a problem for those teams, because players are going to have to have time off. So it'll
be really interesting when the players that play deep into the tournament, when they get back for their club teams, the schedule kicks right back up again. So those players who are coming back are going to need a game or two maybe off to chill. So looking at the schedule ahead of time to see what matchups you're going to have and if you're going to be able to rest those players.
Oh, make no mistake. Every head coach is wishing for an early exit for all of their players.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't get out of the group stage? Damn.
Oh, come on home.
You mean Iran made the knockouts?
Darn.
All right, so I got a question for y'all.
Yes.
Winter window's coming. 2 signings. Doesn't have to be a specific person. What are the 2 things you guys need to either sustain your run or to kick it into the next level?
Am I allowed to answer this? Because last time I brought up signing players, you gave me a lot of shit.
Okay. First off, you're not getting Jude Bellingham or Saka in the winter window, so
I know that either. Please, God no.
You can answer it if you want to give that as your answer. By all means, go ahead. However, the answer is no to both of them.
We need a fullback to cover. A right-sided fullback would be ideal to cover for Kyle. We have 2 left-sided already, younger guys that can cover in and fill for Cancelo when he needs to play on the right side. But if anything happens to him too, we don't have anybody that besides John Stones that covers that spot. So somebody like Sergio Gomez, who's young, who's 20, 21 years old, has a little bit of experience playing in a top league in Europe with some foot skills. So that's right-sided because we don't have anybody to cover. And Kyle is so important with his speed and pace and physicality on that right side. And at his age now at 32, he's picking up knocks more frequently than I would like. So having somebody besides Cancelo and John Stones that can play that position would be somebody that would be targeting. And another position, maybe another winger to rotate in there. Because when Calvin Phillips comes back, we're good at our holding midfielder spot. We're 4 deep at the other 2 midfielder spots with Kevin, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and Cole Palmer can play there, no problem. Phil can play up there. So there's plenty of rotational pieces, but having one more player who's capable of playing kind of either out wide or centrally would be nice. Nobody that's going to require like starting minutes or anything, but somebody who can fill in and be a comfortable kind of like with a squad rotation role, if we're referencing FIFA 23 again.
Is there a specific name you're thinking for either of those positions? Attainable, obviously.
I will have to get back to you on that.
Just spitballing here. Big shot, what you got for me?
Absolutely, at least one more midfielder, preferably a defensive midfielder or at least a more deeper lying midfielder. Yuri Tillemans is still the great. I think they'll try it again in January.
Got to.
I think you try it again. That's the first name that comes to mind. Because I would like to also get someone. Arsenal sometimes they've done a little bit better with staying within the Premier League. I think in January, especially if you're in a title race or you're at least deep in this top 4 race, I would like to get someone in January who knows the league, is playing the league. So a Tillemans would be great. I don't know what other midfielders Brighton has, but they seem to have a lot of them. So maybe if Brighton kind of falls, Brighton's playing great football.
Caicedo's there. Caicedo's the name at Brighton.
I would take a shot at Caicedo, but those are the two. Yeah, Caicedo or Tillemans would be the two.
Leicester's about to have a fire sale, so one way or the other, they're going to need all the money they can get because it doesn't look good for them. They're going to sell. Realistically, they're going to have 3 names that are all going to be on new teams next year, minimum. And I'm thinking I could probably guess 6 off the top of my head because Vardy is going to be gone. Harvey Barnes. Then you have Tielemans. You have Madison. Madison's going to be a huge ticket item.
That's somebody. Now, you talk about in a dream scenario. Madison would be. I didn't even say Madison because it's probably the least realistic.
You won't go in January. I realistically think Tielemans could go in January though, just due to how unhappy he was this summer, and everybody thought he was going to be a gunner this summer. I know I did. I thought they were still going to do it on deadline day. So I would be hard pressed to see if Arsenal don't reattack and push hard for him this winter.
I'm gonna tell you something. When England get knocked out of the quarterfinals,
they're gonna make it out.
I said when they get knocked out at the quarterfinals, they're gonna look back at three decisions of 3 players that Gareth Southgate, for whatever reason, does not like, and Madison is one of them.
I can't figure it out. I don't understand.
He doesn't like Madison. It's clear, right? He doesn't like Madison. I don't think he's that big a fan as much and as great a young talent he is. And Joe sees him every week. I don't think he likes Foden that much.
I agree, even though he started the last 2, but he doesn't seem to, and like his choices are odd. The guys he likes are interesting in my book.
No, you can say it, Joe. It's weird and it's strange. Doesn't make sense why he doesn't Foden, Grealish, Madison. He doesn't prefer.
I know
them.
why
It's
he doesn't
weird.
like Grealish. Because he's not good. But I think Foden, honestly, I think Mount is kind of in a very similar situation with Southgate. Like both of them play, but they never have that, like, it's just weird. Like, they never get talked about. All the other players on the England team get talked about, Rice and Sterling and Kane and, the defenders, Harry Maguire. But he's got a weird thing going on with his midfield, and I don't understand it. England's gonna.
We're gonna talk about this when he gets close to the World Cup, but his fascination with Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips, as opposed to, and I get it, they're different type of players, but why do you need both?
Well, I mean, if you're going to start Harry Maguire, then you absolutely need both, because you're going to have to run a 4-2-3-1,
which is part of the problem.
Just due to Calvin and Declan both being able to, they're both great holding midfielders. Obviously, Declan's a little bit better at this point in his career, but Calvin's still very young. So I think that's why he plays them both at the same time. But I think England would be much better off. Even they could play three at the back and be in a better situation than they would, running two holding midfielders and four at the back.
So Zach, we got about 5 minutes left before we start part 2 of the doubleheader, the dish playoff preview. Who would your be? Let's say we get to best case scenario is January. Chelsea has gotten further through the transition. They're in the thick of the top 4 race. They've advanced into the knockout stage of the Champions League. What is the 1 or 2 players, if you know who, or just the positions for Chelsea?
The positions that I need most are a director of football operations. That's the spot I need most, and this saga is long and drawn out. But to play the game. This is going to sound really weird, but I think we need a new winger. And it's becoming more and more evident that we're going to need another center back, which is weird to say considering we just brought in 2. But Azpilicueta, his days are done. And Silva, as Terminator-esque as he is at this age, he is on the wrong side of 35. He's nearing 40, and only certain people can do that. So you're going to realistically go into a season where you have Koulibaly and Fofana and Chalobah, which is fine. That's good. They're all great names, but you're going to need some depth there. And I would 100% not be surprised to see them pluck Fikayo Tomori back from AC Milan because they have a buyback clause.
Talk about somebody who should be starting for England.
Another person.
Fikayo Tomori.
Starting for England.
100%.
Oh my God.
Well, our dish guys are queuing up in our waiting.
And let me tell you, our dish guys are queuing up. When we get to the World Cup, we're going to talk about this more. I'm as least a troll as there is. I am absolutely here for England knocked out of the quarters and the meltdown that precedes it. I'm here for all of that.
All of those YouTube channels that we follow for Arsenal TV and BT Sports, Rory's just as bad. And I know City podcasts are going to go nuts. I'm here for it. Even if it means the United States somehow doesn't even make it out of the groups. I don't even care. Just to see the dumpster fire that's going to come across the pond.
You guys are more into USA national team. Let the United States find a way to beat England in that group. if it happens, it will be the greatest day in the history of football Twitter ever if the United States beat England.
I'm gonna be unbearable. I know I can get obnoxious at times.
It's gonna be bad.
Zuckerberg's gonna mute
Gonna
me.
get banned, baby. If I don't get banned, we don't get banned. We didn't do our job on that one enough.
I'll be littering tea bags all over the freaking harbors.
All right, but we're gonna get out of here. We'll probably be back in 2 weeks as we walk through this death march that is October. We're gonna get ready to transfer it over. I see our main man Jorge has popped up on the screen. Jorge, what's happening?
What's up, man? How y'all doing? Wonderful
What about
show.
the wild card Mets?
Hey, at least we're in the playoffs there, Reds. How you doing? Sitting
Not
at
for
home.
long. That's okay. You can join us on the couch here soon. Don't worry.
We got our guy Jorge, Category 5 Storms. We got a few other guests joining us tonight on the dish, the baseball preview. Jorge, I'm gonna turn over to you guys, but I've been casually observing this, and I think this is going to be as fun a postseason as we've seen in a while because, we're going to turn it right to you guys. I'm going to sign off and get you over in the audience. You got a few 100-win teams, but I just don't know if there is a clear favorite to win the whole thing. I really don't think. I think is going to make it interesting.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the show, the beautiful show, talking, the most beautiful game on earth, football. Now we'll take over and talk baseball. But yeah, man, there's really not a clear-cut favorite. Everybody, of course, has been on the Dodgers bandwagon for years, but with teams winning over 100 games, there's 4 teams winning over 100 games. I don't see a clear-cut favorite, but me and Storms talked about it a little. There is a dark horse that we like out of the AL. That we both actually picked, and Storms, I think, is hitting the nail on the head with when Ty gets on. I'm going to make him say the name because I like how he says it. The Guardians. The Guardians have looked nice and have looked impressive, and I hope they make some noise. But Zach, we haven't had you on the show, man. I want you to talk about these playoffs more than anything. The setup for the wild card round, man. How do you like it? The 3-game set.
I'm on the fence. I am in a wait and see mode. We'll see how this goes. I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate the idea. It's extra postseason baseball. October baseball is never a bad thing. So yeah. I'll definitely tune in as much as I can. The one thing I will say though, and I'm gonna say this as I sign off, but fuck Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani is the MVP. Good night.
We just had we have a resident, actually Marlins fan just hop on here. Jerry, man, what's going on? I see your audio kicking in. Your Marlins just won 2 of 3 from the Braves. How do you I just asked Zach the same question. I want your input on this. What do you think about this set, man? This wild card set, this best of 3 now instead of just 1 game.
I like it. I mean, honestly, it makes it. Some people just have a bad night. They really do, and you sit there, you can put your best up there. A lot of people have more than one pitcher, and they want to see if they can hang with them. And it just gives you the opportunity to showcase all your talent instead of just someone, hopefully your best guy, or if he's even healthy to play at that time or not too tired. So it gives better opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I like it, especially for that reason you said. It gives the best 2 or 3. The better team is probably going to win, but it also gives a chance to the wild card to see if they can make it pass around. Like, for instance, one of the matches that we're going to see is really interesting. Seattle and Toronto. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. Whoever wins that series goes on and into the next round, probably full head of steam, and going against the team they go against. It's going to be a good wild card matchup, in my opinion. Storms, I'm going to kick it over to you, buddy. Well, first off, how you doing? You know, everybody out there, we just got on. We just transitioned from football to baseball. What's going on?
So I'm just happy to be here. But I do have an intro for you tonight, though.
What's up?
The reason that I am happy to be here is because 210 days ago, we didn't know if we would be here. Obviously, this is not new to anybody who follows baseball, but we came pretty close to having another shortened season if we had one at all. And that's why I've just been happy to be here all year. I'm, now here we are, it's over. Like Jorge said, we've got some surprises in store, I think, in our playoff preview show / watch along coming on Friday. But man, for one thing, just because they didn't do anything important, so they're not going to get much airtime today. My Reds completed their first 100-loss season in 40 years today. So, not great. I'm also a little disappointed because even though we finished with the same record as the Pirates and lost the season series 7-12, we have, I think it was coming into today, 74 runs better in the run differential department. So none of that matters. So the Pirates are the third and final team to qualify for the first MLB draft lottery, and the Reds get stuck with the fourth pick.
Hey. Nice little prize there, I guess. But I think that's the longest I've ever heard you talk on an introduction, man. That's got to be a record right there, for sure. And you see the other person on the screen right now, Kyle. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, I just want to let you guys know Stephen Vogt hit a home run in his last major league at bat before retiring.
Yeah,
That's pretty fast.
yes.
Dude, that dude was putting in work before the game, and he could have just been lollygagging and whatever. But that dude's a true professional by doing that. But that's all I want to say for right now. I'm excited to be here. It should be a fun show.
Great players, great guy, great story too. Like that's really awesome for him.
So without further ado, let's get into it. We're gonna start talking first off the divisions and how they wrapped up and what winded up happening. Let's take it first to the since Ty just popped on, let's take it to the NL West. We're gonna start on the NL West side, and I don't know what the hell's going on with Vic's screen, but I see like New York City and Vic's hat and face. But all right.
That's all you need to see. That's all you need to see.
All right.
We run the city. That's all.
All right, 99 wins. Can't even hit 100. So in the NL West, of course, the Padres ran away with it. That this division was done like 2 months ago. The only thing is that we thought it was going to be a little closer than what it wound up being. San Diego, of course, missing Tatis all year, and then the boneheaded move that he did with taking some medicine, I guess, whatever you want to say. And then San Francisco, or ringworm that he had, right? And then San Francisco winded up being 81-81. That division wound up being nothing what we said in the beginning of the year, like I just said. Dodgers ran away.
Crazy about that?
Huh.
You know what's crazy about that? In the 129 something years, I think, that the Giants have been a franchise, this is the very first time that they've finished at 500. They've
Really?
never been 81-81 before.
Wow,
That's just that's almost hard to believe.
that is very hard to believe.
They should have been so much better after the year that they had last year, though.
Yeah.
All the young guys, but yeah.
Ty,
I still think that, and something we've hit on once or twice, the Cardinals, since Yachty's debut, have played in exactly 24 meaningless games. That's since 2004. I think that, and a big part of the difference between last year's Giants and this year's Giants shows how how important and why we say that the catcher is the second, almost the most important defensive position on the field. Like, do not underestimate the how big an advantage having one of the game's best catchers gives a team.
And veteran leadership. Too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And Ty, I think correct me if I'm wrong, is this the 5th straight year now that the Dodgers have won over 100 games?
5th straight year?
I think it's the fourth.
Okay.
I think it's
The 4th
it's
straight
4.
year. That alone is nuts. To have 400 wins in 4 seasons, that's crazy. That's nuts. But moving on, there's not
Franchise
really
records
much to say
2
about
years
the
in a row
West.
too.
Let's go to the AL West, which Houston wrapped up with being 16 games up over Seattle, and some of us thought this division was going to go a little bit different with Shohei and Mike Trout, but Houston winded up winning that division. Noodle Germ's team ran away with it, as we say, but. Man, they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs. Come with that pitching staff. We'll get to that. But yeah, we all thought it was going to wind up a little different, and Houston ran away with it with 106 wins. That's a lot of wins in their own right, man. They deserve to be where they're at, first place in the AL. You guys want to touch on that? Go ahead.
Houston's going to Houston. Despite the things that have happened in the past. We talked about at the beginning of the season, one of the things that Houston does better than other teams is their pitching staff. From the front end all the way to the back end, doesn't matter who's starting, they're always going to have a chance because they can pitch, and they pitch well. And, they play in a nice short porch, with left field, and they have a lot of hitters that can hit that side. But they do really well with getting extra base hits, getting on base, and then holding teams with their pitching. Verlander has been lights out all year, and Valdez, yeah, he's been killing it, man. Faber, man, that dude. You're gonna get 7 innings, 6, 7, 8 innings out of him, if not, a complete game, and that saves your bullpen for the rest of the year. And that's going to be huge going into the playoffs by being able to save your bullpen. Now you don't have to burn them out in the beginning of a series and try to catch up for the rest of the series. You're just there. You're in a good position to win, and Dusty Baker's one of the best to do it. And when you have a good manager you got a good skipper at the helm, it's hard to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and in that same division, we got the AL Rookie of the Year with J-Rod, man. How about the year he had? And just the boost he gives his team. Seattle's going to be good for years to come, and mainly because of him. And also because of that bullpen. We've talked about that bullpen for years now, about probably 3-4 years before anybody started talking about the bullpen. The bullpen is probably the best in baseball and has been that good for that long. And they deserve to be in the position they're in because of their pitching staff. You guys want to talk a little bit on Seattle?
Actually, I want to just say one thing about the Astros real quick.
Go ahead.
Credit Jim Crane, the owner, because when he bought this team, and I think it was 2011, he made a statement to the fans. He said, we have a comprehensive plan for what we want to do with this team. And it's going, because they won like 56 games the year before he took over. And it's going to take a long time to get where we want to go. But once we get there, we're going to be really good for a really long time. And look what they've done. This is a franchise that is so good that every time they've come up on this show for 3 years now, at least one of us has said, there's not really much to say because the Astros are the Astros.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. Team franchises generally just don't have runs like this, regardless of how many rings they've actually brought home. Just lots of credit to Crane and the way he's run the team.
And I want to actually, ask a resident Yankee fan, because everybody forgets about, not that everybody forgets about Houston. It's because LA has been so good for the last 4 years. Outside of LA, Houston has been the most consistent team for the last, let's say, 7, 8 years. What do you got to say about that, Vic? The Yankees have faced them a couple of times in the playoffs, and we've seen what happened this year. There's a chance that you guys face them again to go to the World Series. There's a shot. So what do you got to say about the Stros?
I mean, the number one thing is, man, you got to draft and develop very well. You guys know how I feel about prospects, and especially in football. It's the same thing with baseball. If you're able to develop your prospects, you got Carlos was homegrown. Tuve was homegrown. They have several players that were homegrown. And then if you do a good job mixing that with free agents, you're going to get what you got. I don't know. I'm not sure if Framber Valdez was homegrown, but I know Christian was. And those guys turned out to be some solid pitchers. Christian Javier had that no-hitter that I was able to attend in the Bronx back in June. So, the pitching is ridiculous, man. So again, developing players from your farm system, as well as having a mix of free agents. I mean, Verlander has just been. I mean, he's hands down got to be the most consistent pitcher. You talk about Scherzer, how great Scherzer is, how great DeGrom is, Shohei, but it's like Verlander just seems to be the most consistent pitcher. And for somebody to be as old as he is with the Tommy John's procedure, that's just incredible. It's been an incredible, consistent franchise with the way they handle things. Real quick about the Mariners, man. I had the opportunity to watch that series that the Yankees had with them, and that back end of that bullpen. I mean, you gotta try to get to the pitching, to the starters, because that back end of Sewald and Munoz, and a few other guys. That stupid 100-mile-an-hour fastballs with sliders that are 10 miles less, but they look just like, it looks just like a fastball, but then it drops away from you. So, fantastic bullpen. To beat the Mariners, you're going to have to get to their starting pitching.
And do it quick, because their starting pitchers don't go deep. They'll go 4 or 5 innings, and then the bullpen takes over and the game's done.
Right, because it's so deep, yeah. So
yeah, it's just a deep bullpen. If you don't get to them in the first 5, it's over with. So let's switch gears, man. Let's talk about the Central, the NL Central. This is another team we talked about, and we said it at the beginning of the year. If this team's able to stick around, this team's able to stay in the race, they're gonna make the playoffs, and that's exactly what they did. The Cardinals, the only team to make it out to Central. Some of us thought Milwaukee or maybe even the Reds was gonna have a shot. I know, Ty, you picked the Reds. So go ahead, man. Talk about the Central a little bit. I'm gonna shoot it over to you.
I thought I picked the Brewers. Didn't I pick the Brewers?
Oh, one of the other teams. I don't think you picked the Cards.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked the Brewers. No disrespect to the Reds, of course, but I'm gonna take a little shot at Storms. Storms. How do you feel about Suarez's success as a Mariner after 7 years as a Red?
I think it's great, man. It just, baseball's like that sometimes, sometimes, and it's not just baseball, but sometimes all a player needs is a change of scenery, fresh faces around him, different perspectives on different, things that he's doing. I've made it very public. I'm rooting for the Mariners in the playoffs, or as I call them, the Seattle Redners. So I'm very supportive. I think it's great, and I would really love to see those guys go out and get a ring, even if it can't be with the Reds.
Yeah, but back to your the NL Central, Jorge. Like, I did have the Brewers. I think at the beginning of the year. If not, I have to go back, like Vic always says, and watch the film on that and watch that show and make sure I'm not lying. Keep me honest. But Cardinals, man, I didn't expect them to win the division, but I'm not surprised just because of how great of a franchise they are. And honestly, this division was going to come down to like two teams, which, you know, it did. The Brewers just missed out like a game back. So that's unfortunate. But when you have so many pros with experience that just know how to do it, it's easy to, you know, stake your claim. Now, could they go on a run? I don't know. I mean, you got the Phillies in the wild card, and that's going to be very entertaining to see if the Cardinals pitching can hold up with the Phillies bats for sure. But when you have who I think is arguably the NL MVP, as well as another candidate who's up there high in the rankings with Goldie and Arenado, anything can happen. So I know that Jay Ham, you know, my favorite historian, and Dion, you know, will be watching and waiting just to see what the Cardinals and the Red Sea will bring to October. So anything can happen, but especially after this, you know, season that they had, season, you know, players and professionals, and Pujols on his last ride, they may just want to do it for him. So enjoy the last ride.
Yeah, man. And I think as of right now, they're the only team in MLB that has 4 Hall of Famers on their roster. They have first baseman Goldie, Molina, Arenado, and I would even argue Wainwright. So they're going to be a tough out, man. And we'll see what their pitching does against Phillies, like you said, with that bats. Let's move on. Oh, go ahead. So, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I want to talk about the Brewers a little bit because this is one of the more disappointing teams in the National League for me. I mean, you know, after last season, we knew exactly who they were. They were a team whose rotation is going to, you know, come after you, and one of the best rotations in baseball. They had Hader, who really, we found out after they traded him, kind of solidified and held that clubhouse together a little bit, and really has been, despite his struggles after being traded, has been one of, if not the best reliever in baseball for the last 5 or 6 years. But we already knew that this was a team that lacks offense. And we're now on year 2, year 3 of them banking on Christian Yelich being the Christian Yelich of old that won MVP. It's not working, man. They didn't add any bats at the deadline. I picked them to win the division, but by that time, when they didn't make any moves to other than trading away Hader and fracturing the clubhouse, I didn't want to come out and say it out loud, but I kind of almost wrote him off right then. Like, I can't understand how that trade was supposed to help the team. It just blows my mind, because he was starting to right the ship. He was struggling a little bit before he got traded, but he was starting to get right. And then they traded him, and his whole baseball life got upended, and felt like he was never really able to get back in the groove. But I just can't see how that trade helped the team at all, and it made them much worse, in my opinion, and is why they missed the playoffs.
So the Brewers are interesting, man. The Brewers are the opposite, but the same kind of team as what the Braves are. They hit a lot of home runs. They get on base a lot, but they don't hit as well as the Braves as a team. They had hit the second most home runs in the league. They hit 219, I believe. Yep, 219. But their batting average was about 235. So there's a big contrast there, man. There were all or nothing team. So like you said, it's not working. So something they got to give. And for the longest tenure manager, Council, he's a good manager, but they need more pieces. They definitely need to bring in a bat that'll get on base, to make solid contact instead of being an all or nothing ball club. Because, it works out well for the Braves, but it doesn't work out well for other teams, and they're a good example of it. So
I just feel like it would be a shame to have this rotation together for 3 or 4 years and come away with nothing to show for it.
agreed.
Happens.
Agreed. So let's move on to the Central. Ty, who won the Central? The AL Central?
Guardians? Guardians?
Nobody on the planet picked the Guardians to win this division. The White Sox, 81-81, won 500, and really couldn't right the ship with their interim manager with La Russa being out, and the Guardians winded up winning the division by 11 games. Go ahead, Storms. Talk on the Guardians, man, because you were talking about them a little bit last week, and I'll give it to you, man. Go ahead and give them some numbers, some takes of the Guardians, and what we expect to see from them.
Well, so by now, most of us know that this is the youngest team in baseball, first team ever to win their division with 16 major league debuts on their roster that season. I obviously really like this team. They strike out less than any other team in baseball. They're a top 5 contact hitting team. I think they have a 370 team on base percentage. They have a rotation that, doesn't have the big names quite that some of the others do, but they can go toe to toe with, I feel like, just about any rotation in the AL. Like we said last week, this is just a team that is too young to know when they're not supposed to win. And they go out there and they play like it every day. And they're led by one of the most I don't know about underrated, but undercovered superstars in our game, who goes out there and he's the example day in and day out. And I feel like this team can, and as I said last week, will beat anybody they come up against. I've been really impressed with Tristan McKenzie. In particular, I think he went 8 innings 4 times this year. And just he's light years ahead of where I expected him to be to this point. And really come on and is maybe the best second starter in the American League. So
yeah, that pitching staff can definitely take him deep in the playoffs. And as I picked him to go to the World Series. So we'll see if that happens. Now, as far as the division goes, this was the weakest division in baseball. They're the only team in the division to finish over 500. As we said, the White Sox finished 81-81, so definitely the weakest division in all of baseball. So outside of the Guardians, we won't talk much about the Central because there's really not much to talk about. Vic, I'm gonna kick it over to you, bro. I'm gonna kick it over to the AL East. The Yankees at 99 wins winded up winning the division, with Toronto finished behind them at 92. And then also the Rays making it to the wild card, another wild card round or series, which they will face Toronto. Go ahead and talk on your Yankees, man. Touch on them. They held on to the division lead, which they started at the All-Star break, a little with injuries and in a slump, but they held on to win the division by 7 games. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, for them, fortunately, they were able to, have a really hot start. At one point, it was a historical start. So, I mean, that obviously was the biggest help for them. But we talked about it in the beginning of the season. There was going to be at least 3 teams to probably come out of that division. there was going to be one team that was going to be left out, and this year it was the Red Sox. But at one point it was close with them too. So it's the toughest division in the sport right now, and I think that speaks volumes to how big of a season the Yankees had. At one point they had one of the best bullpens, but it fell off at the second half now. They're fine. They're trying to look for a closer, and that's going to be tough for them in this playoff run. Clay Holmes, was to the point where he was voted, into the All-Star game as the number one closer. So, for him to fall off the way he did, it's certainly been something fascinating to see. He's lost a lot of control. We know already what Aroldis Chapman is. When he loses control, it becomes a spectacle. The way he just walks people all over the bases. So the concerns right now for the Yankees are, again, the bullpen. The starters have just been fantastic from beginning to end. I think their first three and even their first four is going to be their strength when it comes to the pitching staff. And then at times is who else is going to get the big hit after Aaron Judge? Who's going to protect him in the lineup? Everybody's getting healthy. They expect Carpenter to be ready for the ALDS. They expect Benintendi to be an option as well. LeMahieu is going to be coming off the bench with the emergence of Oswaldo Cabrera. So the offense might get back to what they did early in the season. Again, the concern is going to be timely hitting in the bullpen.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, what is your biggest concern? And you just answered it for me right there. What you saying, the person who is going to be the person to pick up Judge, because as we've seen in previous playoffs, every pitch counts, and they're not going to let the biggest bat in the lineup, whoever it is that you're playing, beat you. So somebody in that lineup is going to have to step up, and we'll see who it is. Now, in that same division, like we said, Toronto and Tampa Bay made it to the wild card series, and Toronto will be playing Seattle, and Tampa Bay will be playing Cleveland. Those two series right there are going to be interesting to see, man. First off, we'll talk about it when we get into the playoffs, but just keep that in mind for everybody that's watching out there. And of course, last but not least, the division that took the last weekend of the year to get settled, but it got settled finally. The Braves winning the division at 101 games with 61 losses, and the Mets wound up getting the same record as them, but it didn't matter because Atlanta wound up winning the tiebreaker, and then Philadelphia making the wild card series at 87 wins, but out of the division by 14 games. I see you here. I see the picture. So say something.
Why you so upset, man?
No, because I know why you put the picture up there. Say something.
I mean,
A box.
all I've been saying this whole year is it's a process, and we got to walk them down, and that's exactly what we did.
You've been saying that since June. It only took you 5 months, which is cool. But next story is next story is same. So they get the bye.
Hey, Jorge,
second.
scoreboard.
Huh?
Scoreboard.
Okay, cool. So the Mets are gonna play in the division. In the wild card round, they're gonna play the Padres. And Storms, you want to hit on that, man? We were talking about that a little bit before we came on here. You want to talk about he's got his bag of popcorn. This dummy.
He's at the ballpark already.
He don't hear it, but I understand though. It's painful to him. I understand though.
I just want to listen to the back and forth here.
I don't want to listen to it anymore. I'm done with Trav and Guru talking about the NL East. Jerry, you come in and say things once Storms finishes his, but I'm done between these two all season long. It's been essays and dissertations about their division and their two respective teams. I'm done.
What do you feel left out, bro? Like, what? You wish you were in our division? What is it?
Hey, what did I call your division last season? The NL East. You redeemed yourself. Good for you.
It's not.
I mean, I'll
Second toughest
I'll say
division.
this for Ty. It's easy to get bored with a 20-game lead.
And the
They
fourth
do
most
have-
franchise wins ever.
They
Like,
do have a lot of best players, and then they mess up and lose, and then Ty disappears and starts crying up under some French fries of McDonald's, and that's it. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. I mean,
Hold up. Before we go any further, did Jerry just pull out a nerd's rope, like that nerd's rope? Did you just pull it out?
Yeah, bro. He's in his Slim Jim.
He got a whole.
he did.
He got a whole bucket.
I mean,
Yo.
Hey, Jerry,
Yo.
pass one on, man.
That dude, he makes so much bread he could go to the store and take the whole box.
Yo, Jerry.
Yeah, stash back
You know,
there.
since you're in the same division, man, you know, you now sit in possibly the toughest division in all of baseball with Miami.
For this year.
But no, for years to come, and I'll tell you why.
What do you mean, Ty?
Because
Please.
Miami's gonna be good with that pitching staff, man. They just need some bats. And if they get some bats and they're able to sign some people for some contracts, they can make some noise in this division, especially with our contract at the top of the pitching staff.
I mean, you got Myers, you got Seco, you got Rogers. I mean, they can make some noise. I mean, it's you got probably six good pitchers. I mean, they might do something. It's my thing is the Braves finished with 101 wins on the season.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 3? Was it?
yeah, that's right. That's right. Keep it going. Keep it.
No. I mean,
Don't do it, Jerry.
we're gonna. So I wonder how that's gonna go. I don't know. It's gonna be weird, but it is what it is. I mean, they just need to get their stuff together. I'm sorry.
No, you good. We curse all the damn
Yeah,
time.
watch
so
your
it don't
fucking mouth.
matter. So with that being said, that wraps up the division talk. I'm gonna kick it over to Vic to let him speak his piece about his man that's hit 62 home runs. We're gonna get it off the table now. Go ahead and talk about your man Judge.
I mean, listen.
Hey, can I borrow that popcorn?
Yeah, pass that popcorn over.
Dude, where do we start? I mean, you know.
Oh, here we go. Where do we start? Shit.
Where
Just
do we
start.
There's so many avenues to touch up on this. Like, you know, the dude has been incredible from beginning to end. You know, in the second half when they really needed somebody to carry them, he was still, you know, doing even better. I mean, I think his second half was better than the first half, and that's just saying a lot. It's like having 2 seasons in one. You know, he kept them in a lot of games. There's probably like 15 or 20 games you can count where he either hit a home run that was important, got a hit that was important, or made a throw that was important, robbed a couple home runs. I mean, the highlight reel was just all around, you know, show by Aaron Judge this year. And if you guys remember, I spoke about one of the things the Yankees have been struggling to find was that number 3 type, you know, whole type of hitter, somebody that can hit for average, home run, you know, run producer, you know, like a 5 tool player. And Aaron Judge just showed up this year and took all of that. So even though he's been, you know, lead off and batting second, which I understand gives you more at bats, he's that all around hitter that every team, you know, should try to get to win, you know, to get to the playoffs and things like that. So Triple Crown, he was only second place. Unfortunately, he was pressing a lot to get 61 and 62. That at times he was chasing more and couldn't, you know, keep his average to stay above Arias. But and they bench Arias a couple games, so that's a whole other story. But you know, so he missed out on the Triple Crown. But again, one of the best offensive seasons in baseball. where the pitchers are throwing harder. There's more strikeouts. This was the lowest batting average league-wise in the history of the game at 243, I think it was, a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, you know, for a guy to be doing what he did, not just be a home run hitter, be an all-around hitter, I think this is the only type of season that can beat, you know, a Shohei Ohtani type of season. I mean, because again, Shohei was just utterly impressive this year. And even real quick, before I forget, Mike Trout hit his 40th home run today, and that's only in 108 games I think he played. So imagine if he
114.
Somewhere around there. You know what I mean? But like, he's not getting up to the 150s, 160s. If he did, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's pushing for 60 as well, probably. You know, so the Angels, man, it's a sad story. You know, and I don't want to put the whole team blame on Shohei and things like that, but the team is not doing anything. You know what I mean? So I think part of, you know, the case for Judge is the fact that he was able to carry the Yankees a lot towards the second half of the season.
Okay, two-part question. Vic, I want you to answer the first part. Do you agree with Buster Olney when he said that this is the best season for any hitter that we have seen in the history of baseball?
I mean, it is tough. Again, Barry Bonds had like 3 or 4
I didn't ask you a multiple choice. I said yes or no.
Yes or no?
Is it or is it not?
Answer it.
Is it or is it not?
I understand where you're trying to get to. I get it. I know where you're trying to get to. You ain't fooling me.
Is it or is it not?
It's a top 3 season. I can't pick one in baseball. It's tough to pick a season in baseball because I wouldn't go as far as the 1940s like Josh would. I would not go that far.
Why?
Okay, because bro, it's before the freaking what do you call it? Before black players were able to play, dog.
Did you hear what the statement was though? He said ever, like ever.
The best season ever.
Ever. Okay, ever.
I'd say it's top 3. I wouldn't say it was the best ever. It's the second best. It's the second best Barry Bonds had. It's the second best Barry Bonds had. So I mean, that's saying a lot.
I know a lot of baseball fans are real big on WAR. So for one thing, Barry Bonds had 4 seasons with a higher WAR, offensive WAR than Aaron Judge had this year. But that's it. He's the only one. And as far as the Judge versus Ohtani thing goes, like, too many people are trying to take away from what one or the other is doing. Like one way I heard it put earlier today, and it really kind of puts it in perspective, is both of these players are doing things that no one has done since Babe Ruth. And both of these players are doing them better than Babe Ruth. Like, that's
Shohei finished top 5 in strikeouts. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Top 5 in
ERA. Top 5 in strikeouts, top 5 in ERA. He's practically top 3 in every pitching category in the American League.
Nobody cares about Big Herman, so nobody cares.
Well, it's tough. It's tough because the intervention. And I mean, there's a word that's not intervention, but you know, before
integration.
April of 1941. Yeah. Anything that has happened before that is debatable.
We knew what you meant. But by the way, the season that I referenced was in 1941, so you lose.
So
half a season.
My internet got a little choppy there. So did Vic say that we had an intervention?
You need intervention.
Man,
you need a big intervention.
Get the hell out of here.
Tell him, Trav, he needs a big intervention.
Yeah, that
so you
need a very intervention because they got smacked around like some little holes in the left. They got smacked around, but they gonna get it together.
They gonna get. So Vic, not Vic. Sorry, Jerry. looked like he wanted to say something when I asked you that question about Judge. Jerry, you got something to say about that question I asked Vic?
About it being the greatest hitting season ever?
Yeah.
No. I mean, when you talk about the greatest ever, are we talking just statistically or memory or just, because there's so much emotion in the fan base.
Mhm.
And everyone nostalgic kind of memories, I guess, with our age. And when you think of that, you're thinking of years like, what was it, 2003? Was it 2003, 2004 with Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds going crazy? What year?
98. Oh, before that. 98.
90. God dang.
You said 9.
But you know what I mean? It's like Candlestick Park, dude. Every time you see one go out in there in the ocean, in the bay, I mean, just memory alone. I mean, just a nostalgic feel. I mean, nothing tops Barry Bonds, in my opinion.
See,
2001.
Especially
2001.
especially that one at bat with Eric Gagne, because that dude was like,
Yes.
oh yeah.
Can we not talk about that?
no, we need to talk about it.
No, it was greatness. Though.
That's
It was
like one of those
greatness.
things though, that like I think about. I was like, oh, Barry Bonds, because I didn't get to see most of his career because I was so young. But I do remember watching that game, and I remember watching all the highlights, and everyone was talking about it. I remember the Gagne Cy Young run. I remember they were like, oh, every time that the Dodgers played San Francisco, it wasn't Dodgers playing San Francisco, it was Bonds and Gagne. That was it. That's all they talked about. So you can look at it from a nostalgic piece like Jerry was saying, or you can look at it from a historical stat point, like, hey, he did this on that night. But top 5 for sure, but I don't know.
Until we see somebody set the single season home run record, have the most walks, highest slugging percentage in the same season, I rest my case. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Or in case if you want to go nostalgic, 41, Ted Williams and hit 400 for a season. I mean, that's something I'll never see in my lifetime. Probably.
Yeah, we're not going to see that.
You know what I'm proud about of our group. I mean, of course, we gonna talk about each other's teams 24/7, 365. But one thing we're going to do, we're going to keep the artifacts, the real artifacts alive. People really want Barry Bonds. No, you ain't finna do that here on the dish. No. It ain't been proven of what they accuse him of. His number still stands. That 73 still stands.
Hey, I think a lot more people still respect it, though. I think a lot more people respect it, though.
A lot of people disrespect it, but these are the facts. The artifacts are the facts. And the fact remains that Barry Bonds is still one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Still got to stand in the box and take that.
I think that a lot of the people you hear like disrespecting it are the older generation, where they grew up, watching the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
They don't want to let it go, Vic, because they haven't evolved. Their mind hasn't evolved. They still.
They put so much emphasis on the fact that they enhanced their bodies at the time. So I think the change in that was too drastic of an emotional impact on them.
Right.
But like my argument to them would be like, well, the pitchers must have been juicing. I mean,
I think Eric Gagne wasn't juiced to the fucking gills.
Oh, he was
like this. That dude's head was like, okay, you look at both of them on that video y'all was talking about, and they look massive. So it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, you got to throw the ball accurately in a little box. Okay, we see how many people struggle with that.
Right.
And you still got to hit that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think that the impact on the guys like the Buster Olneys, those guys, I think it impacted them a lot. I just think that they're ruling out way too many things. I think Babe Ruth could have been enhancing. Maris, even though his son has been a little disrespectful towards Bonds as well.
Yeah.
During this Judge year.
Yeah, he hugged Mark McGuire on the field after he hit 62 though, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, but he didn't know. I guess he didn't know at the time though. I guess to his credit, he didn't know at the time until things started.
That man's forearms were bigger than my head. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, but, I mean,
Yeah.
were you thinking about it at the time? Nobody was thinking about what could have been happening.
No, but I was 12.
Hey, but so here's my other thing that we don't really talk about as much, and we always talk about players juicing and pitchers juicing in the past, and nobody ever touches on this. Times have changed. The way people take care of their bodies have changed. Science has changed. So these players and how Judge takes care of his body and how these athletes are now is completely different than the era that Babe Ruth is. You see these guys getting in those chambers, to take care of the muscles, to do whatever it is that they do. I don't even know.
Hyperbaric.
Yeah, that
cryo chambers.
And you bring up a good point, Jorge, because so even though part of me wants to kind of like reject that era, part of me also says if Herman was alive at this time, he would adjust to this time. You know what I'm saying? If Ted Williams was alive at this time, he would also adjust to this time as well in terms of keeping their bodies right. Because you hear about them drinking a lot and smoking a lot, and you'd be like, oh, they wouldn't survive about that. Nah, at these times they will be held accountable to take care of their bodies, and they maybe would be as great as they were in this era too. So it is. I mean, baseball is such a historical sport. That's why, to me, as much as I love football, it's still the baseball is still the best sport on the planet for so many reasons. So it just all this talk that you can have about it is just it's fantastic.
Yeah,
and just to impress Vic, though,
but
I gotta impress Vic with this real point because he brought up a fantastic point that we neglect in sports. There are many great athletes. I'm gonna throw out LT as one. LT could drink anybody under the table, and still one of the best defensive players of all time. So if Babe Ruth wants to have a hot dog and a cigar and how many beers he wanted before a game and still hit it out the park, go ahead. If Andre the Giant could, do what he did as far as drinking and still get in the ring, I mean, we've seen it.
LT can also do something else under the table, but we're not going to talk about that.
Exactly. Him, Darryl Strawberry, and Doc.
Man,
Gooden.
ain't nobody saying nothing about Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden. Get off the damn Mets, man. Shit.
Now there's some people, like I call them physical specimens. There's some people that just can do anything and still be great. You know what I mean? They can drink. They don't have to exercise as much as somebody else does. They don't have to take a certain vitamin or nutrient like somebody else may have to. They're just physical marvels that God put on this earth with this just physical traits that can't be matched.
Mm-hmm. So now that we're done with the first part of that question, Judge, I'm going to ask you the second part, and then we're going to go round table. We're going to go around with everybody that we're talking with. Does Judge run away as far as a huge gap as far as the AL MVP? Go ahead, Vic.
I mean, I guess so. Josh and I had this discussion in terms of how the voting is. So I don't know like how exactly the points work. I haven't really like sat down and really studied how it works, but I think there is a gap. I think a lot of these guys.
No. I sent you the scoring and how the points are counted in the chat in the middle of this debate. Don't do that.
What do you? So okay. I don't. Are you gonna do this live TV right now, Josh?
Yep, he's going.
Yes, he already did it.
Okay. So hold on. Explain it to me then, because I still don't understand it. I said I don't understand it. I don't.
So first place votes count for 14 points. Second place votes count for 9 points, which is why I told you that even though I don't think it will be, Judge could be unanimous MVP as far as the voting goes. And if all 30 voters think that the gap is this close, then the gap is still that close. It just won't look that way in the
Okay.
points.
So let's say
So
29 voters gave him first place votes. That doesn't count. That doesn't matter.
It matters, but not like you're acting like this is a runaway, no question. Everyone in the world should be voting Aaron Judge, and you're acting like Shohei Ohtani isn't also doing things we've never seen before at any level.
That's not what I said. I'm guaranteeing you that 29 voters will vote first place for Judge because they're talking about it. Starks.
Okay, so before you were guaranteeing unanimous.
Okay, so unanimous 30. I mean, I'm saying 29 is still. If it's 29-1, that's still a huge gap. 25-5 is still a huge gap. So that's why I asked, like, how tight.
It's a big gap in the number of first place votes, but it doesn't tell us how those voters felt about how big that gap is.
Yeah, that's what he's getting to.
Right.
That's what he's getting to.
And the unfortunate thing is we may never know that because only some of them are going to put out articles explaining why they voted how they did.
Right.
There's some that have already done that. Like there's John Starks who said that. I mean, not John Starks. Jeff. Some of these guys that have voted have Passon, I think, has a vote. He said that Aaron Judge is the clear cut. You know what I mean? So again, there's guys that they're gonna release it after. But I mean, hopefully they'll talk about a little bit of how they feel what the gap was. I'm just saying, like, this is the only type of season that he deserves it way more. That's it, bro. Next year, Ohtani's gonna do the same thing, and Judge will have 40 home runs or something, and Ohtani, you could give the MVP to Ohtani every year.
Why are you whining about Judge winning MVP? Like, we're not saying he's not going to win it. It's not that big of a gap, though.
I'm saying it's not close. That's my argument. It's not close for 2022. 2021, it wasn't close on Ohtani's side, right? Ohtani and Guerrero. I don't think it was close. And next year it might be the same thing.
All right. Well, we know where Cat sits with this.
I don't think so. I think he has more to say.
For the record, I do have Judge as MVP this year. I want to put that out there. I just don't think it's a big gap at all.
So I'm going to pass it over to the man that's sitting, or I don't know, standing in between the gap of Shohei and Judge. How big is that?
That's a big gap. That's a big gap. Look at that head.
Pause. Ty, go ahead. Pause.
So rarely do I ever agree with Mr. Poppy over there. I'm gonna call him Poppy this time, just because we're on live. He's on the dish, but I agree. I think the gap is huge. Like, unfortunately, when you have the numbers and wins to go along with it, sports writers are gonna eat that up. There's pressure for the sports writers to get it right. The media is going to talk about it. It is a two-man race, and unfortunately, in a two-man race, the victor goes to spoils, and the victor is going to be Aaron Judge, and I think it's going to be decisive. Now, Storms does have a point, but unfortunately, Judge is, the guy who has the storyline of, hey, I'm going to turn down all this money. I'm going to bet on myself, and he did it in immaculate fashion. In the biggest media market for one of the most historic franchises, as great as Shohei is, and the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and infinity and beyond wonder of the world that we'll never see ever again in life, you're not winning, bro. And your team is about to be sold. You're not in the playoff race.
I think Shohei himself understands that. I think he says, like, it's Judge.
So you guys are telling me that Shohei can be a near unanimous MVP one year for being a
Russell Westbrook 2.0. Russell Westbrook
What's
2.0 is Russell Westbrook 2.0 is what I'll say.
So he can be an MVP one year for being a two-way player and being one of the best in the league at both, and then he can go out the next year and do better on both sides while pitching more.
Okay, and then so next season,
and you still think it's a huge gap? Like, really?
Unfortunately, we've seen it in sports where storylines matter. Like, Judge is the sexier pick. It's sexy.
Does Buster Olney? Does I could get the list? I think Buster Olney. Does he get a vote?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
mean,
think
he
so.
gets a vote.
So,
All right.
I mean,
All right, let's pass it on to somebody else before you get that list, and you can tell us. Jerry, how big do you think this gap is? Do you think it's a huge gap, small gap? What's
Are we
on your mind?
talking? Are we talking on deserving or voting?
Let's go first. Let's go deserving, and then we'll go voting.
Deserving, it's close. I mean, because what Otani's doing, you'll never see it again, ever. I mean, if you do, it's going to be from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the home run record, I mean, with the way hitters are nowadays, that can be broke next year. But popularity-wise, as much as the media has been capturing Judge and stuff, it's going to go Judge. I mean, it's the Yankees. I mean, the market's huge. It's Judge.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think there'll be an uproar if Judge doesn't win it just because of the market, and
Yeah,
just because of
Shohei
that.
doesn't even play for the right LA team.
Kyle, give me your opinion on this, man. You think it's a huge gap, like Vic was saying, pause, or a smaller gap?
I think it's Vic's on the show, and I'm gonna hate to say this. I think Judge will be the MVP. You're welcome, Vic. You'll never hear me say some shit like that ever again.
I know it burns. It burns. I understand.
Kept that for later because I don't know what else you're gonna jerk off to later. I don't know. I think it's gonna be close, man. It seems like every time Otani goes out on the mound, he's gonna give you 6, 7, 8 innings. He's gonna get an extra base hit, maybe 2. Probably put a couple over the fence. It's just really hard being in a small market team because their team sucks. And I get why Otani signed that extension and secured the bag. I would have left and went to Seattle.
No, he didn't sign an extension. He's just getting the highest arbitration.
Avoided arbitration, yeah.
Yeah, avoided arbitration. A 1 year
He's still
contract.
signed to 2023.
Yeah. So avoided arbitration for a 1 year, $30 million bag. I would have fucking left and went to Seattle. You would have helped out.
He still could leave for 2024.
But I would have left. I would have left at the end of this season because
he can't, bro. He can't.
Yeah, he was arbitration.
He was arbitration.
He's still under team control.
Oh, okay. I would have left as soon as I fucking could and went to Seattle because that team
Ask for a trade. Ask for a trade.
And he likes, he talks about Ichiro all the time, how he was his mentor and all that stuff. It would just be fitting for Otani just to get the hell out of the Halos and go to Seattle. That being said, like I said, I think it's a lot closer than we think it's going to be, but I think Judge is still going to pull it out over the end. So it's just hard. Like you said, big market, big storyline. He's going to win it, but I think it's going to be closer than we think it's going to be.
So here is my opinion on this. And me and Trav talked about this before we talked about it on another show about Judge's year and even talking Shohei a little bit. This is a historic year for a Yankee player, which means in its own right, it's a historic year because the Yankees have been around forever. And the Yankees have had great players every era in baseball. So it's big. And also big being that, the market he's in. New York is the biggest market you can be in. And he put his money where his mouth is, and he's going to get paid. And that was a big storyline coming into the year. With that being said, I didn't know which way I was going to go, but I think it's not that big of a gap as you're saying it, Vic. Judge is going to win it, and he deserves it, but I don't think the gap is that big. He probably will wind up getting, I would say, 23 of the 30 votes for first place. And Shohei will probably wind up getting 6 or 7. That's my view of things, just because of what Shohei does and what he brings to the game and stuff that we haven't done. But you're right. It takes this kind of year for Shohei to get the throne in the AL, because nothing else will beat it. We saw it last year. Look what Vladdy did. We were talking about him probably getting the Triple Crown, and he almost did. And we were saying about him not winning it because Shohei was just that good. But this year, with Judge hitting 62 and the way he did it, just because it was a story coming into the year and he bet on himself, he deserves it. He's going to win it.
And like, I think that, like, you know, so we talked about it earlier in the show, like the way these older guys, these reporters or whatever, how they feel about the sport. And you hear guys like Passan and Olney say things like, this is historical. I think that, you know, that's where I'm kind of basing it off of, because to them, like, it's that important. You know, the somebody that may be cleaner than the Juice era, somebody that's not doing it, you know, and back in the historical days, you know, he's doing it in the era where, you know, the lowest batting average in the history of the sport. You know what I mean? So I think they consider all of that stuff. But I mean, I got the list of the guys that vote.
Hold on. But to rebuttal you there, man, that's something that you said that doesn't make any sense, because in this era, more than any other era, what do they worry about? Launch angle, exit velocity. They worry about the complete opposite of what you said. Yeah, it may be historical, but for him to break the record in this era, this would be the era that the record would be meant to be broken, because they're concentrating on that exactly, which is launch angle and exit velocity.
Right, but you're only focusing on the 62, bro. He's batting over 300.
I understand,
like,
but I understand, but I'm getting to what you just said. You know what I mean? What you said about it being historic.
It's important to them because what he's doing all the way around.
I understand. 62. I understand, but the 62 would be meant to be broken in this era because of what they're focusing on. That's what I'm saying. You know, the launch angle, the exit velocity.
That kind of sounds like you're diminishing the 60 though. Like,
Vic, shut the hell up and get up to the list, man.
The next dude is at 40, dog. What you mean?
I can see where you're coming from, Vic, but he's not wrong. Like, if every hitter's focused on hitting home runs, then yeah, that's when it's going to happen.
But it's
exactly.
Not. It hasn't yet. Now, if next year, like, we got 5 dudes over 50, 55, then now you're onto something.
I'm just gonna say Adam Dunn and Ryan Howard didn't do it, so there you go.
No, I mean, because there's not many names that look familiar for me here. Jeff Passan does get a vote. Buster Olney is not in this, but I guess if you guys look up the members of the BBWAA, that's the Baseball Writers Association of America, those are the guys that get the votes. So it's a group of writers from all over the country. Some of them, it says that they cover all teams. Then you got I don't know if my guy here, Red Sox fan. Oh Jesus, I'm sorry, man.
Kyle.
I don't know if he knows who Peter Abraham is from the Boston Globe. I don't know if Ty, you know who Jim Alexander is, but he covers the Angels, Dodgers, and Padres.
So it's mostly beat writers, you're saying.
Right. Yeah. So like, there's a few Yankees, there's a few that a lot of them cover all of them. So Indians, they got Indians, Marlins, Twins here. So it's a bunch of, beat writers from all over the country. There's 30, like I said, about 30 of them, I guess, get a vote. And like I said, Jeff Passan is the only one that I recognize his name here.
And this is why I tell you that Ohtani is going to get some votes, because if it's beat writers, and we say this about the Hall of Fame, if they have something against a player or against a franchise, you're probably going to see them vote against the player or the franchise. So that's probably why.
That sounds like they shouldn't have a vote, but okay.
That's what we say. Isn't that what we say about the Hall of Fame?
I mean, what I don't know. I guess I wasn't on that show. What do you mean?
Well, we say the same thing about the Hall of Fame. If they're not going to vote for a player because of something they said to them in the clubhouse or because of the team they play against, they shouldn't have a vote. But
again, so they should have their vote revoked if they're going to base off of emotions.
You would think.
Well, the other thing too, and a huge part of this entire debate is how you in this context, how you define the word valuable. Because realistically speaking, if the MVP was the most truly valuable player to a team, then you might as well rename it the Shohei Ohtani Award. Because the guy brings in $25-30 million of revenue just from Japan every year.
Yeah,
And he
does that have
goes
to do
out.
with the field? What does that have to do with the field?
I said value to a team. And not only that, yeah, I mean, that's adding to the fact that he's an ace pitcher and he's one of the best hitters in the league. Like, you know, all the other arguments, well, you know, I just, if it was truly the most valuable player, Shohei Ohtani is it, and he will be every single year. But that's not the way the award is voted.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that value. I mean, I don't know. It's 11 o'clock now. That being valuable to a team is a whole. I mean, we could debate that for another 20 minutes.
We got.
I mean, if you take the revenue out, it's still realistically, you look at it, a guy that helps you on both ends is more valuable, period, because he is two players. And like I said, though, that's just not how the award is voted.
But shouldn't it be? Most valuable player should be the best player in the league, which Ohtani is.
Boom.
There's no precedent for it in sports, honestly. Typically, you have the storyline of the best player on the best team. Typically. Every now and then there's an outlier as far as somebody who's done something that's never been done before, while still being, you know, their team being mediocre or even not that great. They're good. But most of the time, like I would say 9 out of 10, it's the best player on the best team.
So to piggyback off of what he just said, first of all, two-part question: has there been an MVP voted in that has not made the playoffs, and has their team been below 500?
Last year.
That's sure.
Below
Yeah.
500 too?
Huh?
Below 500 too? They were below 500?
I believe
I believe
I
so.
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
So Shohei's the only one that could do it then.
And he did something that hadn't been
I
done
didn't
before.
say that. I'd have to look, but he was the first one that came to mind because it just happened.
Well,
Bro, okay.
Does
Ohtani-
voter fatigue come into
though.
play?
Go ahead,
Check
good
this
Trav.
Ohtani last year, he unanimously got the MVP award, correct? Because he did what no other player has done in so long. Am I correct?
Ever.
Never.
Now,
There was 77 and 85 last year.
attains to Judge because, of course, Judge is going to get this MVP because he has done something that we ain't done in a very, very long time. On one of the most prestigious teams to play the game of baseball. We talking about the gap and pause and the margin. The margin is going to be big. It ain't going to be like a unanimous big, but it's going to be big because of him breaking one of these historical records that they do have. It's just gonna be that way. It's not gonna be a large margin. It's not gonna be one of them unanimous like 49-1 or nothing like that. It's not gonna be like that, but it's gonna be a wide margin. He's gonna get this MVP, of course. But this is the thing about the MVP award. We talk about this in basketball, and the way I put it, have y'all ever watched that Progressive commercial where they were giving the ice cream, and then Flo bust out and said, "Only winners get sprinkles."
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. Mm-hmm.
Y'all know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now Ohtani is still doing historical things, but what the hell are they doing in Anaheim? They're not winning shit.
And you know, my question off of that is like him being specifically. So again, he's a great pitcher and a great hitter, obviously.
Right.
Him being basically handicapping the team when it comes to the DH spot. Does that not play a role in losses possible as well?
Well, to that point, I mean, it can be, but overall, are they winning, Vic? They're not winning. They're not winning. He has to do some very, very marvelous things over there to even be seen. That's just even to be seen. Cause nobody ain't staying up at no 11 o'clock looking at a game that started at 9 over there. Nobody ain't doing that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, well, the only reason
they're not winning. They're not.
The only reason why he's being seen is because of the stuff he's doing. Otherwise, it'd be another Mike Trout.
Exactly.
I mean,
So and that's exactly what's gonna happen over there. That's exactly what's happening over there. He's not winning. So Ohtani is a valuable player. Let's get that etched in stone. He's a valuable player, but this year he's not the most valuable player. The most valuable player is Aaron Judge. This is what it is.
WAR says it. That's what WAR points to, because I think Judge is first and Ohtani's second, which Ohtani's not costing the Angels so much, but he's basically like the last piece of string.
No, and the WAR apparently is combined between him, pitcher, and it's still not reaching where Judge is at. I think it's like by like a point and a half or something like that.
See, the way I feel about it, like, and Vic, I'm going back to that 1941 season you don't like, but Ted Williams hit 406. He drove in 120 runs, hit 37 homers, 553 on base percentage, 1287 OPS, and 235 OPS plus. And he didn't get the MVP. Why? Because Joe DiMaggio had a 56-game hit streak. Shohei Ohtani is the best player in baseball, but Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs. He did a lot more than that. But that's where the attention's been all year. So that's where the award's going.
I think CC Sabathis shirt said it best. Judge is the MVP, but Ohtani is the best player on the planet. Isn't that what the shirt said? Something like that?
I don't think has that been the debate? I mean, he is the best player.
Yeah.
Do what, baby?
Hey. So, all right. So with that put to rest, we talked the AL MVP. Let's get into
real quick. I'm sorry, Jorge. How many hits did Ted have that year? Do you have that?
I did, but my phone literally just died. Okay. So if anyone else can pull it up, that would be great.
406 and only 30-something home runs. Like, damn, you must have had 300 hits or something. Jesus.
I mean, I want to say it was like 185 hits.
What? That math don't sound like it's mathing.
I mean, go look at it. I think he also played about 140 games. So
100. He played
like,
in 40. He 41. He played 143 games. He had 185 hits.
400.
That's crazy.
Must have got walked a lot too.
All right. So with that debate put to rest, let's talk. Right, why we're here.
I mean, if you were pitching against a 400 hitter, you wouldn't walk him?
Shit. Yeah.
Mama didn't raise no pussy.
Yo, speaking of that, shout out to the Texas Rangers and the head coach. The manager, for saying before the series where he said, apparently he went like this, and he said, we are not going to be giving this to Aaron Judge. We're going to come right at him. And they were going right at him. They struck him out a couple of times, but they gave him the opportunity to at least swing the bat. And he was finally able to get it, because at one point it was not looking like he was going to break that. So shout out to the Rangers and not being pussy and pitching to him this series.
All right. Let's with
I
that being
think Jerry's the one that made that call.
with that being said, let's get on to what we came on for, the playoffs. Let's get to the series. I'm gonna name the series. You guys give me the winner and tell me why. I'm gonna start off with the first series, the series that kicks off actually the playoffs on Friday at noon. Tampa Bay against the Indians. Let's kick it over to Ty first. Ty, who you going with in that series? The Rays,
Damn,
or are you going with the Guardians?
I was hoping you wouldn't pick me for that series but I mean, I'm gonna go Guardians. And I'm like even asking myself, Guardians against the Rays. It's you don't know which Rays team you're gonna get sometimes. This was that season where it's like, okay, we're gonna get some great pitching, or we're not gonna get great hitting. We're gonna get great hitting, we're gonna have terrible pitching. I mean, it's one or the other. And when they're on, they're on. They still have one of the best managers in the game, but I think when you come into a wild card game hungry and with nothing to lose but everything to prove, you take that moment. So I think the youngins are ready. They've already been counted out and shocked the world. Why not use that energy and momentum to take a stand on the wild card? And not to mention, you still have a savvy manager yourself who knows what it takes to rally a club and actually kind of get their minds off the pressure. So Francona can do that. I think he's the perfect guy to still keep things loose and light with the young guns.
Okay, so is it going to be a sweep or is it going to be in 3 games?
Oh, it's definitely going 3. I don't think it's going to sweep. No, it's going 3.
Okay.
And I'm going to enjoy every game. And it's going to be close. It's going to be some extra innings in probably 2 of those 3 games.
All right. So you're saying the pitching series. All right, I like it. Kyle, shoot it over to you. Who you got?
I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna go Cleveland on this as well for the same reason that Ty mentioned. You don't know which Tampa Bay team you're gonna get. Are you gonna get a Tampa Bay team where their starters are completely dominant and they win by 3 or 4 runs, or are you gonna get the Tampa Bay team that just gives up all kinds of runs and then their bullpen just completely just lays it all out on the table? I know halfway through the season, Tampa Bay was leading in most blown saves. I don't know what the numbers are on that going into this series, but that's something you got to take into account too, because Cleveland pitches really well, top to bottom. They have good pitching, and those kids that are on that team. I say kids because they're all pretty young now. Average age is 27.
26.3 apparently.
Yeah. They're young, man, and they get on base. They find ways to get on base. I think if we see this Cleveland team come out, I feel like this team's going to do hit and runs. They're going to bunt. They're going to sacrifice bunts. If they get positioned to suicide squeeze, I would pick them to do that because they're not going to hit home runs to beat teams, but they're going to do everything else really well to beat Tampa Bay. And I think it's going to be doing those old school things that we love about baseball. I think they're the team that's going to do it. And their pitching doesn't really blow leads. So if they can get a lead early and stay on it, and then you got the veteranship with J-Ram, I think this is going to be a solid team, and I think they're going to beat Tampa Bay. And I also think 3 games with at least 1 extra inning game.
All right, Jerry, what do you say?
I haven't watched enough at the end of the year to give a good assessment. I mean, you make a lot of sense talking about the youth, using your youth against them as Guardians would do, but Tampa's got experience. I mean, they know what it takes to win these games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Tampa in 3.
All right.
Ooh.
Like it.
No,
Storms.
wait, don't you have to just win 2?
Well, they were in the third
Oh,
game.
my
Yeah,
bad.
but if you don't win one of the first two,
Yeah.
Man, what the hell?
11
But
o'clock.
like I said, I haven't watched enough of them to give a proper assessment. I just feel like the experience is going to come help.
Okay. What do you guys think?
well, I'll tell you which Rays team you're going to get. The one that finished 10 games under 500 on the road this year, and the one that got smacked in their last trip to Cleveland.
Thanks.
Was just
Give
looking
me,
at that.
give me the Guardians in 2 games, close games, but give me a sweep.
Oof. Tyler Glasnow is looking at you sideways right now.
Yeah, well, he's starting game 2, and he's one start off of a major injury that he didn't look exactly great in. So I'm not worried.
Vic, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, so everything just like Josh just put it into perspective there. I think that the Guardians, the way they've been playing lately, is like the Rays on steroids right now. You know, the same type of moving your getting base hits to move people along, bunting and stuff like that, contact hitting, very important. Things that the Rays have been doing for the last 5 years, if not more. So I think they're struggling. They're limping into the playoffs right now. I think they've lost like 10 of their last 15, something crazy like that. So I think I'm gonna go with the Guardians as well. I don't think. I mean, I don't even think if Franco is even healthy as well to help them. So, yeah, the Guardians are playing too well, man.
I have to make this point because what Vic said as far as these and everybody's mentioned it as far as young guns, but when you think of base running, which is important in the playoffs, Guardians have that, man. They have speed. When I talk about speed, like them young guns, run marathons and run circles around everybody. Stolen bases, top 3. Triples, top 3 in the league. So they know how to run and turn on the jets. Maybe they have jet fuel instead of Gatorade or something. But base running is important in the postseason for those bunts, for extending a single into a double and extra base hits. So he brings up a good point.
The Guardians this year remind me of the Kansas City Royals when they won the World Series. They put the ball in play, they made contact, and good things happen, and they use their speed. Like you just said, they hit a lot of triples, doubles with Rosario Jimenez, and then also what's his name? I always forget his name. Quan, yes. They are going to run around the bases and they're going to cause havoc. We've seen one stolen base turn into a win in multiple playoff games, and the Guardians also have one of the best relievers in baseball with Emmanuel Class. He is unreal, and all they got to do is get 7-6, I would say, good innings from their bullpen, from their starting pitching, and their bullpen is good. You just hand it over to him and it's over. They sweep. I think they sweep, and it's probably going to be the low-scoring game, just because those are the kind of games that the Indians win. The Guardians win, but they're going to sweep. They're too good right now, and Josh was right on the money. Storms is right on the money as far as what the series is going to look like. The series that just happened with Tampa Bay, that's exactly what it's going to look like.
One more thing. Give me Bieber and Tristan to both go 7 innings.
Game over.
I didn't even know Bieber was healthy because it just seems like he's always on the IL. That's a big piece.
Hey, Guru, to add to your Royals comment, the Royals just fired Mike Matheny and their pitching coach, Cal Eldoret.
Oh, wow.
Just let them go.
Just now. Breaking news.
Is this like Black Monday, like the day after the last NFL regular season? Is this when you're going to start hearing like the firing?
Everyone's getting fired, man. Everyone's losing their job out here.
He got fired on his day off. That's crazy. So let's move on to the next series. I'm going to leave. Let's move on to the Phillies and the Cardinals over on the NL side. This, I think, is going to be an interesting series with the Cardinals pitching and the Phillies bat, like Ty said earlier in the show. I'm interested to see who you guys got winning this series. I'll kick it over to Storms first. Storms, you start this one, man. Who do you got in this series and why? And tell me how many games.
So what's interesting for me about this one is the Phillies are another team that, I don't know about you guys, this is not a way that I've really thought about them, but I was looking at some stuff, and this is another team that steals a lot of bases and has been pretty aggressive on the base pass this year. I do like, man, this is a tough one to pick because in a short series like this, I like the Phillies pitching. I don't think they've got enough to do much beyond this series. But I can't bet against the Cardinals, man. If they're not going up against one of these 100-win teams, I just don't. Arenado, Goldie, throw Pujols in there, because if there was a second half MVP, he'd be it. And I like it, as long as I go back and forth on Flaherty, whether I feel like he's a guy that you can rely on in a big game, because he's been so in and out of the lineup. Like, I don't know. I got the Cardinals, I guess, because I got to pick one. And so I'm not picking Fisher Bryce Harper, but yeah, give me the Cardinals in 3. I think the Phillies, the Phillies get on base enough and are aggressive enough on the bases to maybe take one. But give me the Cardinals.
All right. I'll kick it over to Vic. Who you got, bro, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll defer to Josh and you guys, because that's the National League. Been watching them a lot more. I can just refer to the Cardinal series that the Yankees had. Even though the Yankees at the time was struggling, the Cardinals had timely hitting. The pitching was outstanding. They were able to contain Judge and those guys, or whoever was playing for the Yankees at the time. And then Goldschmidt, the corners. I mean, with Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who has also been fantastic, and then you add Pujols in between those guys. I'm not sure exactly what kind of team the Phillies have, but I would be surprised if the Cardinals lose that series.
Yeah, so to give you a kind of insight of what the Phillies have, the Phillies have okay starting rotation, let's say with Nola and the potential they have there, but their bullpen has always been iffy, and they've been iffy for a while. They do hit a lot of home runs at home, but there's their park is meant to hit home runs in. Them playing in a bigger park as far as Busch Stadium isn't gonna really help them too much. But I think to counter that, with a home run hitting club in the playoffs, you have to have good pitching, and the Cardinals have the potential to have that and to shut out those bats,
Right.
So that's to answer your question. That's the type of, and we haven't really seen the ugly head of the Phillies as far as the defense rear its head yet. But come playoff time, that the ball finds you and it will eat you up. So look out for that for the Phillies as far as their defense goes.
Who would be the top 3 for the Cardinals? Is Wainwright and Montgomery in that? Because they got Montgomery from the Yankees.
Flaherty, Waino, Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
Also, shout out JT Realmuto making his first playoffs of his career. Kind of hard to believe, but is as good as he's been for so long. But good for him.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because I was about to pass it to Jerry and say the same exact thing. How do you feel about Realmuto getting his first playoff game as a Philly, and who do you have?
I mean, how long has it been? 4? How long has he been in Philly? 4 years? 5 years?
I think it's their 4th year. Yeah.
long enough. I mean, shit. I mean, he was brought there to go to make it to the postseason and hopefully succeed. But like y'all said, I mean, Cardinals, what? How many have they won over the last 15, 20? About 3/4 of them. They're starting to squeeze in. They're getting a little hot right now. I mean, they might be able to carry that momentum in there. Give me the Cards in 3.
Good reference, man, because this is what the Cardinals do. Like, this is the way for them. It's weird. Like, they get hot at the right time and they just take it to a championship, and it's crazy. But I wouldn't be surprised if they run the wave and the momentum of Pujols, and have them leave on top. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But we'll see. Kyle, I'll shoot it over to you, bro. Who you got and why?
So I want to say it's going to be St. Louis, but it's all going to depend on their starting pitching. Their starting pitching has hurt them a lot this year versus helped them. And if Goldie and Arenado could get going at the plate, there was a lot of games this year where when they didn't get going, when one of them wasn't hitting, they couldn't do anything. And that doesn't help out your starting pitching either, because now your pitchers are playing from behind to try and pitch to these other teams, and now they really have to try to attack the zone. And a lot of these teams are just going to sit dead red and start just crushing fastballs. Now, on the other side of that, with the Phillies rely on the long ball. Like you had mentioned, they play in a park that favors the long ball, that allows them to play to their favor. Now they go to St. Louis. It's not exactly a hitter's ballpark. It's more of a neutral kind of a ballpark. So I don't think you're going to see a lot more home runs, but I think you're going to see a lot of extra base hits. But again, I think it's just going to really come down to St. Louis pitching. Can their starting 2-3 pitchers get them deep enough to where they can get 1, 2, maybe a 3-run lead, and then hold them from there? Because their bullpen's not bad. It's not great. I don't see either of these two teams taking the long road to the World Series. But I think they'll get through the series at least. I think it's just going to be St. Louis. I think they have the experience. I think they have the talent to do it, but it's not by much.
You think in 3 games?
Yeah, give me 3 games.
Okay. Go ahead, type 2.
So I'm going to say Cardinals in 3, but it was tough because both teams have a big chip on their shoulder. You have the Cards, who struggled to get out the wild card the last 2 years, and the Phillies are back for the first time in the postseason since 2011. So big chips there, and then you have pitching staffs that, while are not great, they can surprise you. So if you're the Phillies, if momentum is in your favor, and if your first name is Zach, you don't crack under the pressure. I'm talking about Zach Wheeler and I'm talking about Zach Eflin. You could potentially, make some noise. But in a series like this, I think, defense will be the big, swing and being the big curve as far as impacting how games go. And defensively, the Phillies just aren't there yet. They're a postseason team everywhere else, but defensively, they're just not right now. And I think pitching wise, the Cardinals have a slight edge. But if you get 2 really, really like almost flawless ace-worthy starts from Wheeler and Nola, this could be different, and it could be the other way around. But it's definitely going to go 3 games, I think.
All right, so I agree with you guys, and we all see the same. The Cards didn't take the series in 3. I think, like I said before, the Phillies defense is just going to rear its head. It's going to find you. The ball seems to find you in the playoffs, and I think that's what's going to happen. And they're going to depend too much on the long ball, and the Cardinals are going to ride that momentum of Pujols and take them to the next round. That's just my opinion. And the Phillies bullpen is going to find a way to blow a game. It's just the Cardinals just have way too much experience. We've seen it from them before, and that's what's going to happen. So let's move on to the other National League series. The Padres.
Basically, the Phillies are the great value version of last year's Red Sox.
I mean, they do have Kyle Schwarber, so yes.
Let's move on to the other series in the National League, the Padres and the Mets. And I'm gonna actually kick it over to Category, because Category told me something really interesting before we got on the show, and I want him to share this with you guys to see what you guys think, what your mindset is on this, on what Buck Showalter is thinking of doing, and how this series plays out. Go ahead, Storm.
Okay, so obviously we say this all the time, over and over and over. Pitching is the thing that matters most in the playoffs. And with the Mets, you have obviously I would say the best 1-2 punch in baseball with DeGrom and Scherzer. Now, last week, Showalter flipped the two of them in the rotation so that DeGrom would not have to deal with an extra day off and getting out of his routine and all this. Well, now what the Mets are saying is that they're going to go Scherzer in game 1. And if they win, then Bassett's going to go game 2, and they'll keep DeGrom in reserve for a potential game 3 or to pitch game 1 in the DS. I don't like this at all. I think this is a terrible idea for a few reasons. So last week you didn't want to give DeGrom an extra day of rest because you were afraid it would get him out of his routine and you wouldn't get the best out of him. Now you're going to give him 8 days, possibly 9, if you don't, or if you do win game 1. And then if you win game 2, now you're talking about 12 days of rest and him pitching game 1 of the divisional series against the Dodgers. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me why you went and changed up what you were doing to keep him on a schedule. And then now you're going to go ahead and double his off time between starts. And this is a guy that, I mean, he's missed big chunks. So routine is something that is very important to these guys. And then not only that, now your game 1 starter, Max Scherzer, is a guy that's been dealing with an oblique injury. And he came out and said, I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday, but said that that's not going to be 100% until he gets to go through an off season. And I just feel like what's the point in planning for the next series? You got to get there first, So Darvish is going game 1 for the Padres. He's gone 14 innings with 1 earned run, or 1 run allowed this year against the Mets. I mean, dominated them. So why would you not throw your best pitcher at that? Like, I know it's DeGrom, it's Scherzer. There isn't a big gap, but there's a gap. DeGrom is better. So if I'm Buck Showalter, if I'm the manager of the Mets, I don't understand why DeGrom is not at the very least slated as the game 2 starter, like just period, point blank. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And it feels like, the kind of thing where we go back and like, is this why they lost? I just, it's such a different, I mean, even though you're at home, it's a very different feel going into game 2 and not having to win to stay alive.
Sounds like a very Mets thing to do.
Yeah, it does.
So before I kick it to everybody else, who do you have winning this series and why? And then I'll let everybody give their thoughts on what you just said.
Man, so before I'd given a lot of thought to all of that, I said in the chat earlier today that I thought the Mets were going to beat the shit out of the Padres and then go on and lose to the Dodgers. Now I'm questioning if they do get out of the wild card round. I do think they will. I think they win in 3, and I think this is gonna bite them a little bit, but they've got what it takes to recover and win the series. I think Darvish is going to go out and get the win against Scherzer in the first game, and Bassett will go out there and take care of business. It's not like he's a bad pitcher. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's been great this year for them. But this is where the worry starts to creep in, because then if you go to DeGrom game 3, I mean, he's not only are you taking him off his schedule, but he's struggled lately. He's already struggled lately, and he's already a guy that, I mean, every game is its own entity, but damn, man, they just don't hit when he's on the mound. Him in game 3, for that reason, scares the shit out of me if I'm a Mets fan.
That's why I hope it doesn't get to game 3. So let me kick it over to Ty. Ty, your thoughts on what Buck is thinking of doing, and also your series pick and how many games?
I'll trust Buck, just because even though he can be a little bit unconventional, things tend to work out in his favor sometimes. So he somehow gets, lucky. And what I hate to say is that even if you would ask me a couple weeks ago, if the Mets and Padres are going to face each other in the wild card, I would say, oh, Mets and cakewalk, easily sweep. But I'm like Storms. You kind of, if things pan out the way they can, let's say if like you have Machado going off, if Soto shows up, that could, definitely, raise some eyebrows. If you have sharks that smell blood in the water after the deflating into the season that the Mets have, the Padres could surprise you. But I just don't foresee the Padres having that shark mentality, especially with us missing probably could have been the best shortstop duel ever in Lindor versus Tatis. I think that hurts. And it sucks as a fan perspective, but starting rotation matchup to matchup, like it's pretty good, especially when you factor that Blake Snell kind of looks like he's back. And we've seen postseason Snell pitch well before. So again, I say, like, if the Mets, take this lightly and don't bounce back from that deflating end, the Padres could sneak in there. But I will say the Mets in 3. Escobar, you still need to carry this team like you did in September offensively. But you need the bats rolling. You need to, put this one away. I would say don't keep it close. The Mets need to definitely win by 3 runs or more. You keep it close, then you give the chance for the Padres to tap into their inner shark and smell that blood in the water.
Yeah. Don't tap a sleeping giant, right? Like don't mess with him. Put him away, because like I talked about it before the postseason started. The one team that does scare me if they wake up is the Padres, because the Padres has a potential of having a deep lineup, and the starting pitching combined with those two can probably match up with any team. And if they wake up in time, they're gonna make some noise. But Jerry, what do you got to say on this series, man? Who do you like and who you got? And what do you think about what they're gonna do with DeGrom first? I'm sorry.
Did you say Darvish was starting game 1?
Yeah.
Now, if Darvish sneaks game 1 and the Padres take it, I mean, do they move DeGrom to game 2 and move Bassett to game 3, or what's the plan on that? I mean, it seems like they're just thinking they're thinking they have an easy ride. It seems like, and it can't. If they lose game 1, they might throw themselves out of rhythm right there and get swept. I don't see it happening, but I mean, they just got to be careful. That mentality can get you hurt real quick. I mean, it's been a little bit of a rough patch to end the season for the Mets, but they just got too much talent. They just got too much talent all the way across. I think the Mets take it in 2 sweep. I really do.
Okay, so 2 games. All right. So you say they're able to save
careful
DeGrom
for the Dodgers. especially if DeGrom has 12 days off.
Yeah.
Last thing I'm gonna say is if the Mets lose Game 3 with DeGrom on the hill because they wanted to get cute and not throw him in Game 1 or Game 2, that's gonna feel an awful lot like losing the division in the last week of the season because all you had to do was win one game and you couldn't get it done.
That's gonna be a punch in the gut to everybody, every Mets fan. I won't even show up for any more shows. Kyle,
Promise?
I fucking promise. Kyle, who do you got, bro?
I don't know what Buck Showalter is trying to do with DeGrom. To me, that doesn't make sense for a lot of the reasons that everyone else has mentioned. You know, if you have a healthy DeGrom and you have like an 80% Scherzer, I understand why Max is going to take the hill because it's Max Scherzer in the playoffs. I get that. But I would take the 100% healthy, dominant pitcher that we've seen in the past and see if that Mets team can actually put some runs on the board for him. I'd rather see him go out there Game 1 and give everything that he got, and the team does what they do. But if you put yourself in that hole, you lose Game 1, you put yourself in a hole, and you already know, like, this dude, the team struggles to put runs on the board for this guy. And that's hard to come back from, especially because, like, I mentioned it at the beginning of the season, and we've all talked about it. But the Padres are scary because of their starting pitching, right? We're starting to see Snell come around. Musgrove has been good all year. Darvish has been solid the last couple of months. He's been consistent all year, but really solid the last couple of months. You got Cronensworth, who's a young new guy who's been doing really well. Hader, maybe he shows up in the playoffs. You know, like, if it has to be a perfect storm, Soto has to start hitting, Machado has to go off. It has to be a very perfect storm. But if it's a team that's going to have that perfect storm, it's going to be the Padres. Their lineup is deep. They do everything well. The thing is, they don't do everything well together. They do everything well in, like, innings. But I see them putting it together in a series, especially because it's the playoffs and it's this series. But if the Mets can put up the runs, and I think we've said this before, if the Mets score 2-3 runs, usually in the first couple innings, they usually win the game. So if the Mets put up the runs, the bullpen's going to shut them down. It's that simple. But I think the trumpets kind of faded off throughout the end of the year because we haven't heard shit about it since the All-Star break. But we know that the back of the bullpen is the strength. And if we can get it there, I'd rather not get it there. I'd rather see him, just blow them out all the way through. But if it gets to the back of the bullpen, we know the strength is there, and it's just going to be a shut door. I say this, Mets in 3, but it's a very narrow gap just because of the potential of what the Padres can do.
I get it. Vic?
I just thought of one more thing, if y'all don't mind.
Sure.
This thing that they're doing with DeGrom, it's very reminiscent of Lou Piniella when he was with the Cubs, pulling Carlos Zambrano out of Game 1 early so that he could start Game 4, and then there was no Game 4.
Good point.
And that was a tight game when he pulled Zambrano out, and it was just so that he could be the Game 4 starter, and Game 4 never came.
Good point.
Carlos Zambrano was a head case, man. That dude was wild.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. Vic, who you got?
I mean, you guys spoke a lot about it already. I mean, my question would be, like, what is the Mets mental state right now? Are they deflated? Are they can they go back to being that team that was strong and fought through the season, winning games on timely hits, great pitching from top to bottom? Are they broken inside? And that's my question. Is Buck overthinking some things? because as great as a coach that I think he is, I think he's one of the best old school coaches in the sport. He hasn't had a great track record when it comes to getting to the playoffs and winning in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So like, is he overthinking things now? You know what I mean? So, it's unfortunate because like the Mets had a fantastic season. And it just feels this feeling just kind of just seems like they're deflated right now. And I'm still gonna pick them, maybe because I don't know, it's just maybe the New York bias or something like that. But I think it's just too much talent in terms of that pitching staff. I know that they moved Pete Alonso. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they moved Alonso to the second spot. In the lineup. So the more at bats that he can get, as well as Jeff McNeil, who won the batting title for them. Can you get those guys more at bats at the top of the lineup, kind of like what the Yankees have been doing with Aaron Judge? Is that strategy something that they may need to do so that they come up in the 8th and 9th inning? But again, like so many changes at the end of the season like this, panicking, including calling up the 20-year-old catcher for some offense. Hindsight being 2020, all of a sudden it didn't look like a good call. You know what I mean? So like, is there panic in the Mets right now? And that's my question. So that we'll obviously see the answer in a couple of days coming up right now.
So
It's crazy that's a legit question, man. They won 101 games, but it is.
Yep.
So here is my thought on this, and I told Storms, I like it, but now that I'm thinking about it more, I don't like it. I like it in the sense if Scherzer is able to take game one, the Mets are able to win, and then you're holding for DeGrom to start game one against the Dodgers. Of course, if it works out that way, he's going to look like a fucking genius.
Right.
I don't like it because you play to win the game and you play to win today. And we keep talking about the Padres being a sleeping giant. How about if they get momentum in the second game, they come back to win in the bullpen game because Bassett can't go deep. They blow out the Mets or they win, by 2 runs, and they win those 2 runs in the bullpen game, and they come out swinging against DeGrom. You put up 3 runs against DeGrom. The Mets don't put up any runs for DeGrom. The series is over in 3 games, and the Mets are eliminated, like you were just saying. So it can backfire. Now, knowing Buck and how I've seen Buck actually play out this year, I've never actually watched the full managerial season until he's a Mets manager this year. I think he's bullshitting. He's just not showing his cards or telling anybody what he's doing.
That's a great point too.
I think he's just bullshitting, and he's not letting nobody know nothing until game one is over with. And then he's going to decide what he's going to do, whether they win or lose, and that's when he'll know who's going to go in game 2. I think it's going to go 3 games, and I think they're going to need DeGrom to close the series out, and the Padres steal probably game 1 because Darvish has been good against the Mets, like you said, 14 innings, 1 run. Scherzer's going to pitch great, but I think the difference is going to be the bullpen. The bullpen in between the 6th and 8th inning heading into Diaz isn't great. You get the ball to Diaz, is over, but the bullpen has issues. So I think the Padres take game 1 and the Mets squeeze out 2 and 3 and go to LA to face the Dodgers, but I don't know who's going to pitch first game because Scherzer and DeGrom isn't. So we got to see who it is that's going to be facing them there.
A good point about Buck maybe trying to be a little deceptive, play it close to the vest, because realistically, if you're going to have that strategy, the thing that makes the most sense to me would be to give the extra rest to Scherzer.
Yes.
I mean, if you like you said, if you got an 80% Scherzer, that's the guy that I want to give the extra days to.
Mm-hmm. Good point. So we've hit 3 of the 4 series. I left this series for last because, in my opinion, this is going to be the best series of all. And this is probably going to be the best pitching matchup, game 1. I think this pitching matchup is going to be outrageous. This series is going to be off the charts. We already know how Toronto gets when they're in the playoffs. We've seen it before. Without further ado, it's Seattle and the Blue Jays. 3-game set starts at 4 o'clock on Friday. And the slated starters are Castillo against Manoa. I think this is going to be the best matchup of the day on Friday. Everybody should sit down and watch this game. It's going to be amazing. It's right now, I don't even know who I'm going to pick to win this series, but I'm going to kick it over. Actually, Vic, you're an AL guy, and who do you like in this first game?
I mean,
tell me who wins the series.
Yeah, this is a tough one. First and foremost, where is it gonna be in Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that I think is gonna ultimately be the key for this series. Will Toronto get the last at bats? Is Vladimir gonna show up in the playoff? This is their this is gonna be their first playoff appearance, right? If I'm not mistaken. With him, Bichette, Alek Manoa, a lot of homegrown talent there in Toronto. But they've been inconsistent. That such a talented team, and the inconsistencies are scary. One day they're scoring 10 runs, and the next you could shut them down to 0 to 1 run a game. So this is obviously not the time to be a team where you're not scoring enough runs to win, because again, the Mariners, their pitching staff is tremendous. So Alek Manoa, though, I mean, Cy Young candidate, has been very, very impressive, an impressive young pitcher there. If he stays healthy, as big and strong as he is, I mean, that's a Cy Young candidate for like the next 5 to 10 years. So that first game, like you said, man, that's going to be fire. So, I'm definitely going to try to tune in. And I think whoever takes that game one, which probably is going to be the same thing for every series, honestly, but whoever takes that game one, I think wins this series. Give me the Blue Jays, man. I guess I'll take the Blue Jays just based on just probably they got one or two more pieces that are more talented in a sense than the Mariners. The bullpen is concerning, but if you could get to Sal Romano at the end as their closer, who has also been fantastic this year, I think the Blue Jays have a chance.
Yeah, I think that's their one weak point, the Blue Jays. Kyle, another AL guy. Who you got in this game and who you got in the series?
So that's going to be a good game because Luis Castillo is pretty lights out. Alek Manoa, he's been lights out for almost every start since the second half. Like, I mean, he's been great all year, but like it seems like in the second half he's just untouchable all second half.
It's like a running back. It's like a running back getting stronger as the like a Jerome Bettis getting stronger as the season goes.
That's what I'm saying, man. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna give the edge. Man, I really like Seattle, man, but I'm gonna have to give the edge to Toronto. I think they have too many guys that are ready, that are there, that have been there. Even though they are inconsistent, I think they're the more consistent team. What scares me about Seattle, team average is 230. They're ranked 26. That's super low. On base percentage, they're about middle of the pack. They're 14th in the league at 315. 18th in the league with runs at 690. 10th in the league with home runs. Well, they're not playing in Seattle. They're playing in Toronto. And I think that makes a huge difference. And we've seen it over the last, we'll just talk about the last 10 years, right? It is incredibly, for some reason, it is incredibly tough to play in Toronto. I don't know what it is, but I think the other thing we're not thinking about, and I haven't really thought about it until just now, when they go to Toronto, how many players are they losing that are not vaccinated? Did we ever think about that? And I don't think that number's high, and I don't think we're missing important people, but you're missing players out of the lineup if that is the case. So I don't know. I don't know the specifics on that, but I know it's going to be hard, man. Vlad, you got Bichette, who was probably the best player last month. He just on fire, man. But the other side of that, he's a liability in the field. You just don't know. You just don't know.
awful shortstop, dude. Oh my god, and he's so physically gifted, like body wise and stuff like that. But my goodness, he is so bad as a shortstop.
Yeah, he
And,
is.
and Vic, I don't know if you saw our last show, but we were talking about it. And this is another thing for another time. But watch Correa go to watch Correa go to Toronto at the end of the year. Watch it, because he's really good friends with Springer. They need a good shortstop, and then Bichette can move to second base or do something else, but not be a liability with shortstop.
Dude, like Carlos Correa, I mean, I don't want to we on for a long time, but Carlos is just an unbelievable defensive shortstop. And like more kids and people like Bo need to watch that film and try to do every single step. Like that's how I grew up. I was great in my day, okay, guys. As much as you don't want to accept it. I watched a lot of Derek Jeter, so like I try to follow every single step.
Oh, so you must have been good then.
So, I mean, no, all jokes aside, like Bo needs to watch some film, man, because my God, he's so bad.
And actually, I gave your Yankees props in that, because I said, and I told these guys, if you guys are not able to keep Judge or sign Judge, your backup plan to that would be to go full press to get Correa. I think that's what's going to wind up happening. So, anyway, switching gears back, I'll send it over to you, Jerry. Who you got in this series and why?
I mean, what'd you say, Kyle? They were ranked 18th in hits.
Hold on a second here.
I interrupted him.
In batting average, they're ranked 26.
What did we say earlier? To get far in these postseason, you need hits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. Give me the Blue Jays. I mean, oh, yeah. Yeah, give me Toronto.
Kyle, I don't know if I interrupted you. I think you were getting to other points and stuff. Like, I don't know if you made a pick.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's gonna be Toronto. It's gonna be. I want Seattle to have this so bad. It's just I don't see Seattle winning 2 games.
You gotta go coast to coast too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. I think they're gonna make noise. I just don't think they're gonna make enough noise.
What's the season series? Anybody have that?
4-0 Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle's had it.
Ooh.
Was it in Seattle though? I think it might have been in Seattle.
Or wait, no, not 4-0 total, but Seattle won all 4 games they played in Toronto.
Oh,
it was that. Yes, that series. Yeah, they got swept.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I don't know that.
I'm glad you brought that up and asked that question, because when you get to me, I'll explain what needs to be done. So I'm glad you brought that up.
You already made that pick and actually typed through. I won't take it away from you. Keep going.
So as much as I want to say Blue Jays, as much as I want to say, because I like the team, this is going to be a battle of depth as far as who leverages the most depth they have. As far as the Blue Jays have better depth when it comes to their lineup and hitting, but the Mariners have more depth when it comes to the pitching. That now in a 3-game series, your 1-2 punch is always, thought of, okay, that's the key, right? I've seen it many times though, that third pitcher come out and, change the whole dynamic. Momentum swing happens all the time. And who's that third pitcher for the Mariners? Come on. Exactly.
Bobby Ray.
And when you have a bullpen that's as great as the Mariners have, you can atone for the deficiencies that you have with getting runs across the plate, which is something the Mariners did this season against the Blue Jays, and they're not afraid of them. With that being said, you have a manager who's a catcher and can see things and handle a game that's close. So if you're Scott, you're hoping and praying that you can control that lineup that they have over there in Toronto, that you can go to Toronto, which is not that far away from Seattle. And of course, you can trust that some fans may show up, maybe, just because Seattle's that hungry of a fan base, or that, this means so much to them after ending one of the biggest playoff droughts in sports. Besides all that, though, I say that if you're Scott, then you have that experience. in the pros as a catcher, you want the game to be close and manage that, and you can handle that. And this team, despite their youth, can handle that. Do not let a game go more than 5 runs, and you have the Mariners in 3. And that's my prediction. I'm sticking with it. This is going to be one hell of a series. I'm excited for it. My eyes are all on it because you have 2 great pitching duels for 4 great guys. But like I said, Robbie Ray is going to be the key in that 3rd spot.
To add, and to add to what you said right there, this is going to be one hell of a matchup. This is going to be one hell of a matchup just based off fan base, man. The Blue Jays, like we know, the home crowd is just nuts. And then Seattle, we've seen how they get too. I mean, even though it's not going to go to Seattle, I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle fans travel to this game and just make some noise because they haven't been in the playoffs for so long. So, Storms, who you got and why?
Man, so I'm going to be rooting for Seattle. I've said that a bunch of times already. I just feel like if you would have asked me 2 months ago who would have won if these 2 teams met in the playoffs, I would have said Seattle without a second thought. But they have been kind of inconsistent, and man, there was the problem here for me with Seattle that I think might play a factor is there was so much emotion wrapped up in ending the drought and getting here. And I wonder if, after the climax of that, and you wonder if they didn't spend their load getting to where they are now. I do think that the pitching matchups are going to be spectacular. Like you guys said, I can't wait to see Castillo against Manoah. I think that's going to be another game where you've got potential for both starters to go 7-8 innings. Give me the Blue Jays in 3 in a really entertaining series. I just think that they've got a little more pop in their bats, and I think that's going to be the difference.
All right. All right. So all right. I didn't know who I was going to pick before we started this series. I left it for last because I know it's going to be the best series. But in my opinion, the Mariners are going to win this series. And they're going to regret letting the 2021 Cy Young Award winner in the AL, Robbie Ray, walk because he is going to be the one that shuts them out. And he's going to be, well, not shuts them out, he's going to be the one that's going to close this season for them in Toronto. And they're going to be really upset about it. I think that's exactly
By the way,
what's going to happen.
correct me if I'm wrong. Was he announced as the Game 2 starter?
No Game 2 starter has been announced yet. I've been looking at the app to see if anybody's been announced, but no, not yet.
Most likely though, will be Logan Gilbert though.
Yes.
What I'm hearing.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing too.
That's what I think too. I just thought I'd heard that.
No, nothing has been announced yet, but I think the biggest difference in this series is not going to be the bats, is not going to be the starting pitching. I think it's going to be the bullpen. We talked about Seattle bullpen. Seattle really only needs 4 innings from their starters. I mean, honestly, they really only need 4 innings, and then the bullpen can take over, and it's lights out, and they can pitch. Huh?
You would need them like the next game too. So
I mean, obviously, yeah. But what I'm saying is, they have the potential to go 2 games in a row with their bullpen and win a game.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays, the Blue Jays just don't have that. It's a tough series for that reason, because you also have on the other side a lineup that can put up runs in bunches. We've seen them been down 4, 5, 6 runs in 1 inning and come back and take the lead. As far as the Blue Jays are concerned, that lineup is deep, man. If Vlad gets going, this can be a sweep. But I'm thinking it's gonna be Mariners in 3, and Ray just comes back and shuts out his ex-team, which he won the Cy Young Award with. I'm with you, Ty. I get exactly where you're coming from, man.
That
Not to
would be
mention,
beautiful.
yeah, not to mention though, we were talking about like that third pitcher. Barrios hasn't looked too good lately. So if you're concerned about the Mariners putting up runs, if you get to game 3, that you survive, you can conquer Barrios. He hasn't had his usual stuff.
That's why if I'm Toronto, I start Stripling.
In game 3?
You have to. You kind of have to at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but in this game 1, I do pick. I'll give it to Castillos. I'll give it to the Mariners. I think Blue Jays take game 2, and then Robbie Ray closes it out in game 3. That's the way I'm going. So, we just touched on the wild card round, fellas. You guys feel comfortable with your picks? Or you guys will be thinking. I'm rethinking them. I'm like, I don't really know. But
That's why it's called the wild card, man.
you never know what's going to happen in this wild card round and what team is going to show up in every single one of these series. Man, it could go either way. It's crazy. Guys, we've hit the midnight mark. Let's get some final thoughts before we hit the snooze button ourselves. Go ahead. I'll go ahead, Jerry. I'll let you hit it, man. You go first, sir.
My final thoughts on everything. Don't get comfortable, Mets. That's all I got to say. I mean, that one right there has got me really intrigued just because y'all brought up that point about resting DeGrom. I mean, it sucks because you want everyone in rhythm and everyone playing well, especially. I mean, no offense, Ty, but tired of your Dodgers winning all the time. I'm ready to see some competition go up against them right now, and I think the Mets can if they play it smart. It's just, I don't know. It's going to be weird to see how it all unfolds. And the Mariners deal, y'all got me thinking about that now. I don't know what's going to happen there. That's so fun. That's Friday at 4 Central.
Yeah, Friday. The first game, the Mets is Friday at 8.
Oh, Friday at 8.
Yeah, it's the night game.
Oh.
That'll be 7 Central, Jerry.
Fake timeline.
Yes, sir.
What you guys doing? Is your final thought, bro?
Is Joe still here?
Somewhere hiding in the background.
Okay. He wanted to talk about his Orioles, but final thoughts, man. I'm just hoping we get 4 3-game series because I'm greedy and I want as much October baseball as I can get. They robbed us of a 163 this year, so I want all my baseball. And that's really all I got. I just hope they're all entertaining. We get some good games, a couple of good pitching duels, and maybe a game or two with a lot of offense. That's really all I'm here for, man, is good baseball.
I think that's been the shortest final thought that you've given. So you kind of went from longest intro to shortest final thought.
I mean, I can keep going if you want.
No, we're good. Kyle, what you got, bro?
Excited for October baseball. Great time of the year. A couple things I want to add. World Baseball Classic. I'm a shameful plug, man. World Baseball Classic is going to be awesome this year. I'm going to meet up with my man Ty. We're going to at least watch a game. Hopefully you guys can come out with that. Also with October baseball, also starts hockey. So, I'm all about that, getting ready for that. But I want to throw 2 things out there. Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't get enough recognition. I mentioned that today in the comment section. Does not get enough recognition. I think that dude's going to be a stud over the next couple of years. Keep an eye out for him. The other thing I mentioned today, Zach Gallen is going to win a Cy Young within the next 2 years. So that dude has been on fire for the Diamondbacks, as bad as they are. He is a bright, shiny star for that team. So keep an eye out for those 2 things to happen. And then I'm excited to see what other coaches get fired at the end of the year.
Oh, man.
One more thing. You're right. Mine was too short. But apologies to any of our viewers from the Dish Facebook group. We were going to go over the season awards tonight, but we just went too long. So try and get that, go over that on Friday on the playoff preview show.
We can actually. Why don't we do it while we're watching the games? Aren't we going to do a DC?
That's what I'm saying. We'll do it Friday while we're doing the watch along preview show.
Okay. Also, we're going to be watching, like we just said, we're going to be watching the shows on Friday. So anybody want to hop on? Jerry, you want to get on again? Whoever it is, Vic, want to talk your trash? Get on. Anybody watching? Get on with us and watch the games.
I'm ready. Yeah, we're ready to call it. I just appreciate being on with y'all, and you guys have been bringing more life to baseball this season. It's been like a more and more happiness and more enjoyable when it comes to watching baseball from the work you guys have done and the trash talk that we have behind the scenes as well. So, it's been great.
We haven't had much to look forward to, and y'all been making it worthwhile.
Nice.
Because the Marlins ain't making me happy. At least y'all are.
I'll keep my final thoughts short then, short and sweet. I'm gonna follow Storm's lead, I guess. When you have a memorable season, a historic season, or you think of all the milestones that happen, all I want right now is another ante up and give me a historic milestone, memorable postseason. We deserve it. Bring it on. October is here. It's a wonderful time of the year. All sports are intertwined and mingling and mixed. So keep the scene on the screen, and we're here to make sure we cover it all and don't miss a beat.
Yeah, like we all said, keep us on your screen. Playoff baseball is here. We didn't even know we were going to make it here. We didn't even know we were going to have a season. We are here now. Every pitch counts. You see how the emotions in playoff baseball. It's about to get started Friday, and everybody's welcome to hop on and watch the games with us, talk some shit, eat some popcorn, whatever the hell y'all want to do. Come on. Let's watch some baseball. That's all we want to do. So from Tab through Vic Jr., Kyle, Jerry, Storms, and Guru right here,